Hello, 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 everybody. How's it going? Welcome, welcome. How was y'all's day? I wonder how many people on the P&L tracker that were trading early and stopped had the green days, and the people that had the red ones are the ones that kind of hung around and tried to hang out all day. What up, Mo Swag? What's up, Blade Man? How's it going, brother? You can see the comments, right, Eddie?
Yeah, I can.
Sweet. Just want
Yeah,
to
I
make
can.
sure.
We're good.
Oh, one of my kids are waking up. Well, we're going to, let's see, I'm giving people a few seconds to get in. I'm going to throw this up. Every one of y'all throwing this up in the WhatsApp? And then we'll kick this puppy off. Hey, how was y'all's day? Decent days, flat day. I'll be honest, and we'll talk about it a little bit. Like, I traded early, and I thought Tesla traded like textbook C strategy setups. Yo, what up, Sufyan? And then after that, it kind of died off, and the ATR, which is something I want to talk about, or that I want to hit tonight, as a super great indicator of when something's like you can make money in it, and then when you just can't. But once that ATR dropped, I was like, okay, I'm done. And other than that, I traded in a video trade or two, and then I had, stuff to do to get this house ready. So I really don't know how the market was the rest of the day.
It was choppy, as one can imagine and expect.
So let me post this link really quick, and then we will. I can't believe I've done 35 of these shows now. Oh, there we go. Somebody already did it. Never mind. Thanks, Brent. So this is so we're gonna go ahead and kick this puppy off. One day I'm gonna get like a better opening thing, like I keep saying, and I'll get better at doing this garbage. But hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Gator Evening Talk Show. Welcome to my swamp, as it were, where we hang out, work through the psychological issues and just general trade issues that kind of bother us all. We could talk about it, talk about the day, talk about the week, whatever you want to talk about. I've got a guest host here, Eddie, today. He's here to help me out. We're going to talk about his journey as a trader, how he's come into being a full-time trader, helping run the Newsbeat Live room over at T3, and a bunch of other stuff. So we'll see where this conversation goes. We're not professionals. This is for entertainment purposes only. Use it as such. You're responsible for any dumb advice you take from me and that you actually go and use, as they say. So, hey, welcome to the swamp. Let's get going, guys. So, a little bit of an introduction. This is Eddie, but Eddie, I want you to give you the chance to introduce yourself. I know people watching here from T3 know who you are, but for anybody else who's not watching, tell us a little bit about your journey as a trader, you coming into being a trader, how you got started, and how you got to where you're at now.
Yeah, Gator, thank you for having me on your show. Seen them all. I haven't finished them all, but they are a great source of inspiration and psychology, and I learned a lot. So thank you very
Thanks,
much for
brother.
this. So my story actually started when I was 13 years old. I was given 1,500 bucks, and I was told, "Here's a Schwab account. Invest it or save it. Do whatever you want." I invested all of it in Delta Airlines, and they went bankrupt 3 weeks later. So I lost everything rather quickly. So that was my first blow up. That was actually what started a pretty big adventure for me because after that, I was so obsessed with trying to figure out what went wrong that I just continued to learn, pick up things here and there, read books, whatever it was regarding the stock market, investing, so on and so forth. Then, long story short, through college, I learned about options. I tried to become a prop trader. I learned spreads, options, lost all my money nonstop. It was just not much, but it wasn't I had no success whatsoever. In 2019, April 2019, I joined the T3 room with Mark, and my life changed. All of a sudden, everything I knew was wrong. Everything I had learned, I had to unlearn. All that past toxicity, I had to undo. And it took me about a year and a half to get consistent. And I think it was September 2020 when I really all of a sudden started seeing regular green days. And from there, the way I see it, I had achieved my dream of becoming someone who could extract money from a market. After that, I decided to go full-time trader in, I think it was April 2021, with the help of Gator, who actually helped me with some really important psychology tips. And ever since then, I've been able to work less, make more, which I guess is the stock trader's dream. And I left the job that I really liked, but it just wasn't worth it anymore. I was having too much fun doing this in the T3 room. And here I am now, full-time trader since April, loving every minute of it. It's not easy, and then there are days that are easy, but we do it as a team, and I absolutely love it.
That's sweet, and I appreciate it. I've got a little bit of echo back in your thing. Sorry, mic issue. No, dude, that's sick. So you traded, and so cheers to you and your journey, my friend, to both of us becoming, day traders, successful from nothing to something. And it's interesting because everybody I talk to, we all have different backgrounds, different starts. Some people have multiple degrees. Some people have been trading since, like for you, you said you were 13. Some people like me, had only been doing it for a couple of years and picked it up. Other people just started. So there's like a wide range of people. And anybody, in a sense, can learn and can pick this up if they have what was the key to you, like a good system and mentor to actually help you get there. What was it for you about Mark and the C strategies that was different than everything you had learned before? Because 13 years to, with however old you are now,
31.
25, 31, that's a lot of learning to never find anything that worked. What didn't work? And what's different between that and now? Like what you do now is like, wow, this clicked.
Yeah, that's a really important question. Here's the thing. There's a million different ways to make money in the stock market. A million different ways. There's a million indicators, there's a million strategies, there's a million people trying to do it. The truth of the matter is you have to find something that works for you. Now, when I started doing all this learning, I learned about PE ratios, earnings sheets. I was told you have to know what a balance sheet is and how to understand it. You need this indicator, you need that indicator, use this. I went through all the different little things without actually being in a room. And frankly, nothing worked consistently. I didn't even have the right mindset to do it, I realized in hindsight. But when I joined the T3 room with Mark, the strategies were defined. They were simple to understand. If I was wrong, I knew that they wouldn't cause toxicity. And frankly, I don't like holding positions anymore because I have so much past toxicity. And the C strategies don't really allow for that, if you will. They don't say hold all day. So for me to hold, 5 contracts in Tesla for more than a minute is something that I struggle with because of that past toxicity. But the C strategies give you that quick money, and that's to me really what I fell in love with. I think anybody can do this if they work hard at it. It takes time. There's no doubt at all. But this is life-changing stuff. The Mark One changed my life. Simple as that.
Yeah, I swear the Mark One like literally pays my bills and paid my bills. It's like learning the simplest. Like, wait, I would joke with Geronimo and like CT and others. It's like it's stupid simple. It's like you look at something. It's like I don't know anything, but if I go back to this Tesla chart here, and we can just pull this up, if you go back to the when the day opened, and great call out from Booth to take this two and done. Green takes red, or technically one and done here. On the day, it's like, here's your Mark One. You bust through day highs. You have a candle that closes lower than the first candle, and then you take the second one that pops through. So it's like, okay, we have a stock that's gapped up, that's strong on the day. It went through the 2 minute. It's above the first 2 minute high. You have a 1 minute lower candle. You buy the next 1 minute breakout. Boom. That's like as simple as it gets. And if you guys are watching this and you didn't know, or you didn't know what we did, yeah, only 8 likes, 11 likes now. Oh, come on. We got 30 people watching. You can get 30 likes if you're watching it. So it's that easy to identify this strategy. So somebody like me who, you're just simple, you're learning, you're trying to do it or something. It's all seems so simple. It's like, wait, I can spot this when it happens. I'm not against a lot of the more complicated stuff, that you used to do. I'm sure people make money doing that. But for the average common person, it just seemed like daunting and impossible. But then when I looked at stuff like this, it was like, wow, you instantly know right away. You're taking options, so it's like you can make the money that you need to make. I don't need millions of dollars to take a trade. Instead, boom, there you go, mark one, there's your pop. And then, you could trade some of those if you want to. Next strategy, it's down here. There's your next, mark one because it didn't hit the 8 or the 8 leaned in. You can make money there. It actually hit the 8 here. There's your know your limit 8. The strategies are just so simple. And that's kind of what drew me to it too. And you mentioned the toxicity from trading past. So like, what were some of those things? If you can ask, like, you don't like to hold things long. It kind of bothers you. What's part of it? Sorry, one of my kids they're teething right now, so middle of
Oh
the
yeah,
night screaming's a thing.
I you are a good luck. That's all I can say. So, I mean, for example, I was part of another service a very long time ago, the only other one I've really been in. And what they would do is they would give you, this is the spread we're taking, and you're buying a $5 spread for 240 or whatever it was,
Hmm.
bull, but stuff that was just you just sit there and you hope that it works out in your favor. And to me, that was fun at first. And then I started constantly looking at my positions. I was constantly on my phone, checking the futures, trying to see, oh boy, is this going to blow up in my face tomorrow? Am I going to have a good morning or a bad morning? And it took over my life. And that's really what motivates me today to be the trader I am. It's to not be glued to a position, not be married to a position. I don't care that Tesla went up or down. I want to be in and out so quick that I made my cash flow. What I think is also something that really bothered me was I would take a lot of lotteries. So I would look for cheap options going in 2, 3 days out. I would take $200, $300, of my money that I worked hard, a day's worth of salary, and I would lose it like that, doing all these lottery tickets. Yeah, CT, my background is blurry.
What up, CT?
Uh,
He did it on purpose.
yeah, on purpose, on purpose. But it taught me that, like you said, the C strategies, they're easy and they're defined. They're not very complicated. And here's the best part about them is that if you follow the rules and the parameters, like the more you follow the rules, the less trades you take sometimes. Like in this environment, a lot of the moving averages are not where they're supposed to be. Like you have the 200s on the 15-minute or 30-minute that are above you. You shouldn't be going long Tesla. Yet here we are able to make money on it. So the probabilities aren't as in our favor. But like you said, Gator, today, I thought this was the best Tesla trading in a couple of weeks because it was actually like after the third candle, it just went.
Hmm.
It didn't go down and chill at VWAP for an hour and then we caught it an hour in. It was ready to go pretty much right away. And we don't get much of that lately. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I think I didn't listen to your guys' Discord this morning, but I know that if you guys thought like me, which is that 2-minute breakout, like you said, those Mark ones, it was textbook. It was absolutely textbook. And you learn from days like these. These are the best types of days, and you got to take advantage. You got to be toxic free going into days like today's. You just never know how good it's going to be.
And that's so I recorded this morning, and tomorrow's show, I'll probably do a trade review of trading Tesla early just because it was toxic. I actually didn't trade heavy or anything. It's not like I made a ton, but it was textbook. There was a few textbook setups that I want to go over. So probably on tomorrow's show, I'll probably do a little bit of a review of it. But that's kind of what you want. So you said something there, and I want to go back to it. Look, notepad. I'm remembering when people say something, I write it down so I don't forget. You said that the trading in the longs take over your life. Like when
Yeah.
you're trading and you're doing these holds, and nothing against swing trading or anything else like that, but when you're doing a lot of this, you can get sucked into your position. You're not sleeping at night. You're looking. You're seeing all this stuff that can affect your trade. You can't do anything about it. You can't exit. It's midnight, but I can't sleep because I'm thinking about what the market might do tomorrow or something like that. Um, when you trade like this too, in the daytime, can take over your life. Like, people get wrapped around the money they're making. People get wrapped around smaller days and big days, and it takes over your life in a different way. But it still takes over your life. It can still like wreck you in a sense, but it's a different kind. So as you made that transition to this, have you experienced that like almost tunnel vision of these short scalps to where you can't zoom out from the market and instead you're just honed in, your OODA loop's all screwed up and you're not able to actually and in a sense it is taking over your life. Have you experienced that since you've gone full time?
Well, ever since I've gone full time, the market is my job, right? We have colleagues, which is, people in the Discord room, people in the T3. We take this a lot more seriously when we go full time, in my opinion, at least. It's an interesting question because there's so many different styles of trading. But what I would say is by simply taking these quick, simple strategies where you have a defined entry and a defined exit, and then you can just be out of position and literally walk away and just forget it or not have to worry about what Tesla's doing because there's always going to be another trade. I mean, once you can get over that FOMO, to be honest, it's liberated me. Like I look back on large portions of my life and I'm like, holy crap, I wasted a lot of my time staring at my phone at a party at night or looking at the futures in the middle of the night to see, oh boy, am I going to experience pain tomorrow? I mean, to start with cash and end with cash is a blessing. It really, really is. And I have nothing against, like you said, people who swing. I used to overnight quite a lot, but you have to take into account the mental health aspect of this job. And if you're there, if you're looking at the market nonstop, wondering what the market's going to do, and you can't do anything about it, the market owns you. You don't own the market. If you're there able to do what we did today, which was take the 2-minute green take strike. I'm just looking at your chart right here, the Mark 1, the know your limit. You can make, a quick 3-digit, 4-digit day and be done in an hour, and you don't have to worry about what happens for the rest of the day. I mean, I listen to you sometimes on your Discord. I don't know how you do it, but you have kids running around in the background. One of them was falling off the couch the other day, and I'm there thinking, boy, it's a good thing he doesn't have any swing positions open where he has to monitor it all the time. That's difficult.
I might have
Right?
been in a position, and that's why I let him fall off the couch. I was like, Tesla, him, you'll be okay.
Yeah, I
I
yeah,
wasn't.
no, of course not. But I have 2 dogs, and whenever they're fighting, I'm like, listen, guys, just give me another minute here. I'm in the middle of a Mark 1. But with swing positions, it's a different story. You're glued to it because it's your money at stake, right?
Hmm.
It's a different game. It's just a different
So
game. I can't do it.
you haven't gotten wrapped up then, it seems. So we see a lot of people do this, and we see people struggle. We both talk to people, and we have a mix of, well, no swag. I'll answer your question in a bit. Yeah, I'll answer your question in Discord in just a second. So we see people that once they start making money in this, it takes over their life
Yeah.
to the same unhealthy position as the other way, as the swing trading. And I think the this can be a more toxic free style of trading. But when you begin to bend, and I think the difference in you and other people, if I could put my finger on it, is you are like almost loyal to the rules to the point of where you don't bend. Meaning bending, for those who are listening, are the guys that are, taking everything that's like almost a prediction of a breakout type thing. It's like, oh, this could go, here we go. And it's just like, you're just like, when I'm bending and when something's going, I have, maybe 100 trades in 30 minutes. Like I take 2 or 3 trades per like 1 minute candle waiting for it to break out. I'm like, I'm in. It didn't go, I'm out. I'm ready back in. And like I can do that 4 times a minute sometimes. And you seem to be, and what your strength is that consistent, like, no, the rule's not here, no, the rule's not here. And you seem to be, because of the toxicity you experienced in the past, you're actually locking in to not tilting. And these are the rules. I'm living within these rules, whether or not I can make more money going outside of them. Is that kind of accurate?
Yes and no. I do bend. I
Mm-hmm.
bend as much as anybody in this room, but I like to say that I bend responsibly. It's funny that you say tilting. My biggest fear is tilting. It's taking such a large loss I cannot recover. And not just because of the financial aspect, but the psychological aspect. Like everybody, I've had those days where I've had large losses and I've been able to come back from them, which is a different story. But I know that feeling. And everything I do in my trading is to avoid that feeling of toxicity. Yes, there are toxic days. Yes, there are days where you have rather large red days. But I swore to myself if I was going to go full-time trading, I would never take a position so large that a loss could take me out for more than a couple days. In other words, if I average, for example, $1,000 days, I'm never going to let myself have more than a $2,000 day and keep trading because I know that if I'm going to be toxic free trading, I need to be able to make it back rather quickly. And I know that I can make in this market $1,000 a day comfortably with the size I take, right? So if I can do that, like if you take a $5,000 day, on average, it'll take you 5 days to get out of that toxicity. That's insane.
A
It's
loss,
not
yeah.
worth it to me. Exactly. And I trade small time for a reason because I don't ever want to go through that position where, oh my God, I just lost a month's salary in a couple seconds. For those who don't know, I had that experience with a lot of people in the room where I lost 99% of my account in less than a second. I clicked market in 3 times and $30,000 became $1,000 like that. And the thoughts you have are horrendous. The feelings you have are horrendous. I remember I had to drive to San Francisco that day.
Mm.
I asked my now wife, I was like, you have to do it. I just can't drive. And I just swore that I never want to be in that position again.
Dude, that's wild. Like I've had I've had some trades go against me. I've never had that, but I know the feeling. Like I've had points where, like, not to that level though. I'm trying to, like, I can't, like, that's just something that's completely, would just ruin, you know, everything. Like, yeah, ruin your more than your day. That's like, you know, that's just something, and then you just have to sit there and you have to feel like what, all the emotions that come with losses. But that's just like the ultimate, like a failure, like I'm giving up, like all this happened, the back and forth, the I don't know, just so many things that you had to get over. And so that was like the culminating point for you to be like, I'm going to, I'm going to change. So it's like you've had it sick and tired of being sick and tired, as I said, and you're like, was that during this or was that before the
No,
T3?
it's true. I think it was November 16th, 2019. I think it was that or 17th, whatever it
Mm.
was. It was a 3 day weekend. I was going to San Francisco. At the time, we had news flow. It was very different. I've told the story a couple of times, but it's an important one. News flow was we would have someone in the room and he would say chatter and he would just say a name. So no context, no idea what it was, but you know that I take, 3 to 5 contracts at
Mm-hmm.
most, 99% of the time. It's very rare that I take 10, and if I do, it's going to be in like a NVIDIA or an AMD or Moderna, something like that. It's
Yeah,
never
yeah.
a Tesla or Amazon. I took 60 contracts of American Express. 60, 6-0.
Mm-hmm.
The bid ask was 60 cents, so I bought in at 60, but I got filled at $5.40, and the name dropped to 20 cents. So it wasn't my money. It was my father's retirement account, but I will never, ever forget that experience to the day I die. I think about it every single day because it's a reminder of how that 1 minute, that 1 second of doing something slightly irrational can change your life forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I take a lot of safeguards in my trading and how my risk management, my own personal risk management to make sure that my bad days are not too bad. I had my second worst day ever yesterday,
Mm.
and it doesn't even compare. Like the ratio of my worst day or best day to worst day is 3 to 1. So I've never had such a bad day besides that one day that has completely wiped me out. To be clear, that really bad day where I lost 30,000, the SEC stepped in the next day, and that $30,000 became a $1,500 loss.
Mm.
So I got saved big time. And if that's not a sign from whoever's up there, then I don't know what is, you know?
Yeah. But there are people who trade and who even do the stuff like this, who when they get bent or tilt in the middle of the day, they do stuff that puts themselves in that situation where, except almost more willingly, where they just go in hard and they just like they put themselves in that situation because it's like, you know what, I've got so much pain, I'm down. Maybe it's because they don't have a day stop, and you talked about that, like, whatever your average is, and we're saying it's an average of, like, if you average $1,000 a day, you won't let your max loss on a day be more than that 2,000. So that stops you, and the next day or two, maybe you have a good day, you make it back in a day or two or something like that, and you're like, I'm fine, and you can walk away if you can accept that. Some people don't, and they keep trading, And eventually you get to a point in losing where it's like numb, like, well, what's 10 grand? What's 15 grand? I'm already down. What's 20 grand? I'm already down. And then they just put themselves in a situation where they're just completely like wrecking themselves, or it's all or nothing on an overnight, or it's, just some of this other stuff. Um, how do you recommend, or how can you, like, I say like it's like belay push the importance of stopping yourself before you get there, and what are methods you've used now once you got that redemption of like the SEC saved you to where you can actually not let that happen again, as opposed to some people be like, well, I got away with it.
Yeah, that's the million dollar question, isn't it? And it's the million dollar question because it'll save you $1 million in your trading career if you can have that discipline. Um, it's a good question. So I put in a lot of safeguards in my own trading. I recognize when my worst ever tilt is $500 loss, which I know is really low, but that's because I know that if I'm tilty, I immediately put my hands up in the air and I just step back for a second and I recognize the situation. Literally like this. What the hell are you doing, Eddie? And I do that because I know that that thought process of, hey, oh, it's only another $1,000. Oh, you know what? If this one works, it'll be fine. If it doesn't work, I'm still screwed.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a short-term way of thinking. And like you told me before I went full-time, it's like, don't forget the bigger picture here and why you're doing it. You have to think long-term. If you're taking trades where you don't care the end result, you're gambling. You're not even gambling. You're just throwing money at the market and hoping it's not even, it's horrible. So a couple things I do, and I'll just shoot off the list. It's something I've
Yeah.
talked about in the past, but I think it's important because everybody has their own way of doing this. But my system is a multiple people's system and something that works for me. So I keep a relatively small account relative to to a lot of people in the room. We have some big accounts in the room, but I keep X amount in my account. Starts with X and it ends with X. What does that mean? That means is that if I start with $1 and I made 50 cents that day, those 50 cents go into a checking account at the end of the day, and I start the next day with $1. So I don't care how much I made the day before in my account. I just see the same X. If I lose money, hey, you have X minus 50 cents. All of a sudden I realize, okay, coming in today down from the day before, if I want to make money and get that paycheck, I need to earn it. So there have been times like in January, I took like a $5,000 drawdown, which is another thing I'll talk about in a second. But like over a couple of days, I just kept losing. And I said to myself, okay, if I want to pay myself, I need to make this money back. And once I made that money back, I ended up with like $250 on a Friday. I felt like $1 million. Like I worked for it. I had to earn it. So I think that stuff like that really helps. A lot of people, what they do is they'll start with, let's say, 50 grand or 100 grand, and they keep working it. The truth of the matter is, if you do that, you're not paying yourself. You're just seeing an account grow. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I run this like a business, and I take the money out at the end of the day and make sure that that cash register starts with X every day. Another thing I do is I have a $2,000 stop loss, which means, so on average, and it's not so much how much my average days are, it's just so much how much can I handle without being toxic. So it used to be $200. $200 and I was a wreck. And I know that sounds ridiculous to a lot of people, but a long time ago it was a lot of money. Or it still is, but it was a lot of money to me. Then it became $500, then $1,000, then $1,500, then $2,000. That doesn't mean that I'm, accepting bigger red days. It's what number am I okay losing and not being toxic the next day. So if I lose, let's say 2 grand today in the trading day, I say to myself, okay, I can come back from $2,000. I know what my average is. I won't be toxic, right? I won't have a situation where I'm angry versus my wife, or angry versus my dogs, or my parents or friends, or whatever it is. I'm psychologically sane, and I can come back the next day and say to myself, okay, I had a bad day. Let's go for it again. So $2,000, I can make it back. If I average $1,000 a day twice, I'm set. I'm back. One. Another thing I do is if I have 2 of those days in a row, or I lose 10% of my account from that X, I immediately have to step back and figure out what's going wrong, and consult with a friend. So I have some friends in the room I talk to. Like in January, I had that situation, and I went to him and I said, hey, here's my data. What am I doing wrong? And he's like, yo, stop sizing up on Tesla, man. You're sizing up at the wrong time. And I said, you are correct. made the money back, and I'm fine. I was good to go. And after that, I was able to have a bunch of green days in a row, and there you go. The rest wrote itself. Another thing I do, and I think this is really important, but um, Mark would always say this, but he said if you guys are ever toxic, if you ever have any issues, unload it on someone you trust or the VTF. Don't take it home. Like there is nothing worse, in my opinion, than being a total a-hole to someone who has no idea what's going on. Like if I had a bad day and I go to Gator and I'm like, yo man, today sucked. Tesla ruined me, or ruined is a big word, but it wrecked me. I got stopped out. It sucked. You get it. You're like, yeah, no, I see why. Or he'll be like, why? It was easy, right? He knows how to respond. And he can, I hate to say it, absorb that toxicity because he understands. But if I go to my wife or a sibling or a friend, they'll be like, what? How you lost how much? Doing what? What is a Mark One? It's important to talk to the right people about the right stuff. Um, let's see what else. Another one that's really important is, my God, if you don't sleep at night, if at least you're 6 or 7 or 8 hours, don't trade the next day. It is very difficult for me to trade, with under 5 hours of sleep, for example. And Gator, I know you have kids, so you're a superhero status, but
Well,
if I'm
everybody's
not,
different there. It's like know yourself. So it's like, if you even if like for whatever reason you're like Wednesday night drinking, turn up Thirsty Thursdays or something, you probably shouldn't come in Friday and be like, I'm good when you're like if you're hypothetically hungover or you didn't sleep good, or even for me, like there are days when I don't sleep good. I'm not coming in trading or like all my tears down. And I might be in here, but I'm like I'm dead tired. I know I don't have the like fortitude to come back from losses, like even me, or like I just know that I'm like given to tilting that day because like yo, I got 2 hours of sleep, and it's generally not one night. I can go like 24, 48 hours without sleep and function okay, but over the course of like if you have a few bad nights of sleep and you wake up like upset and you're just not feeling good and you can only survive on coffee, like you better change something, you know. You need to actually look at that and be like, hey, I notice this like about myself. It's kind of like I say in the VTF, I'm sure, or not in the VTF, in the Discord. It's like, hey, Sitter's sick today. I've got the kids by myself, so I can't do much. It doesn't mean I can't trade. I could trade aggressively, but I don't have time to make it back if I'm down. What? Yeah, like you're saying, you don't want to take your toxicity out on another person. I don't want to be yelling at my kids or upset at them because they just want daddy to come play with them and they're getting tired of watching, Miss Rachel on TV or Coco Melon or whatever. And so you actually have to take other things that are affecting you on the outside into account at the start of the day. And if you're feeling crap because you didn't sleep, if you've got the kids or whatever and you've got a shorter time frame or you've got a doctor's appointment or a wife's, you probably shouldn't come in and try to make your day like, okay, I got to make it. Here we go. Here's a good trade. It's like, I'm going golfing tomorrow. I'm going golfing. I'm probably going to leave at 10. I don't know. I'm going to trade 30 minutes maybe 15 minutes. I don't care if I don't take a trade in that 15 minutes. I'm not coming in trying to make my P&L for the day, what I normally make, in 30 minutes to an hour. Like, I'm just going to trade normally. And then I know I'm going to leave. I'm not going to take too many aggressive setups because I'm going golfing. And I don't want to ruin myself on the golf course because I'm mad because I had a red day. So you have to take, like you're saying, you have to take those outside factors into account when you're trading and sitting down. You can't come in to every day like it's the same when realistically it's not the same, right?
no, it's basically we're saying the same thing. Know
Mm-hmm.
thyself, right? Know
Yep.
exactly what you're going through. Like it's a self OODA loop. Like I have an aura ring, right? So it's like a little CT is gonna make fun of me on this one, I swear to God. But it's basically a little ring that tells you how you slept, your body temperature, are you sick, how's your heart rate, all that stuff. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I look at that in the morning to confirm, like, hey, am I good to go this morning? Sometimes it's like, hey, you slept like crap this last night. Are you sure you're good to go? And there are some days I'm like, you're right, I don't feel great. I'm waiting for that CT message just to bring me a new one. But the point is that, you have to know when you come in the morning, if you're not every morning is the same and not every day you had before is the same. Sometimes you'll have external toxicity, which is just out of your control. And if you're sitting there thinking, I'm just going to slam every morning and the results are going to be great no matter what, Maybe so, but for someone like myself, lack of sleep can't. I mean, I know you're a Marine Gator, but not all of us were, and lack of sleep can definitely affect my next day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the difference between you and I, and this is where I know you hate California, but there is a benefit, is that I start work at 6:30 in the morning, which is when the market opens.
Yep.
I wake up at 5 in the morning. I don't have the only thing I do in the morning is have a coffee and walk my dogs. I know you start at 9:30 in the morning, so if you wake up, I think you said it's 6 or 7. That's 2.5 hours of mental fatigue that you go through. Like I was talking to a trader the other day. The market opens at 3:30 p.m. for him. That means you have until 3 p.m. to try to rest your mind, but that's not always easy, right? Like especially if you're working a morning job or whatever it is. But these types of all of this matters in your trading, right? It's important. Like if you look at Maui Mike, the guy lives in Hawaii. Market what? It's 3:30 in the morning. It opens for him. That makes no sense to me, but he does it, and I'm sure he's had to, really say, hey, if I'm going to do this, I need to change everything around me to make sure I'm 100% fully fit. Otherwise, I'm going to have bad days.
Yeah, and that is something you do need to take into account. So for people who aren't morning people, like I'm usually up by 5:30, 5 o'clock, or yeah, in that time frame. And I can't do it as much now because my kids are waking up. It's a distraction. Um, it just depends because I kind of like, I almost like, I'm kind of mixed. Like I would actually like to kind of have that early morning trading. So by 9 o'clock, I'm done with my day. Like I actually I'm not moving to a different time zone, but I was thinking, I was like, man, Puerto Rico or something. That's the opposite way. But like if it was like you, where I could work from like 6:30 to 9:30 or something, or even 6:30 to 8:30, and then I'm done for the day. Maybe come back at whatever the end of the day is time for you. I'd be like, dang, like that sounds nice. Like it kind of does. But either way, you should kind of know yourself and know, like, if you can wake up early and function right away. Do you need a cup of coffee? Are you getting mentally fatigued from your job? If you are working a job and you're coming in trading, are you pissed off at your boss or these other things that are happening? Are you like, I'm going to hit a home run today so I don't have to go to work tomorrow? You know, just going through different things that can actually affect people in real life. Know yourself, which is what you're saying, and like, you're putting together a list and rules for yourself so you can hold yourself accountable. Rose talked about it last Friday. You're talking about it now. You have a buddy, you have people you can go to. If you're having a hard time, you can reach out and you can say, hey, I'm doing this. This is happening. You're not alone in this journey. And it also seems like you actually take the advice or took the advice of the people that you reach out to. So you reach out to your friend and they're like, you're sizing up in Tesla in the wrong time. You should just kind of stay with the size you're having and then you're not going to give your day back. And you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then you change that and it works. So you're actually using and implementing the rules that we put in place, that you put in place, that other people, have put in place to help you get there. And it's working for you. And it's keeping you consistent. And as a full-time day trader who doesn't have, I assume, like, it's not like you're working another job. This is your source of income. And so you're taking smart steps to make sure that this is safe. Like you're treating it like a business, you said earlier. This is safe. You're not going anywhere as a trader right now.
That's 100% correct. Just to give you an idea, at my previous job, I worked in the industry for 7 years. I loved it. Loved it. I was making $260 a day. $260 a day. If you take two contracts at Tesla, you can make that. Frankly, you could have made, you could have made a week's salary on that in the first 2, 3 trades of Tesla this morning. My point is that I did that, let's say in the first hour, first 40 minutes we were talking about earlier with the ATR where Tesla was after the first 40 minutes, it was untradeable for me, but you could make your week what I made in a week in minutes. And
yeah, how many times look at this?
I was making 69 a year and they were offering me 87. So I wasn't making much.
No,
Okay,
no,
I love. Yeah, I was in those top 2 tiers in my last job. And just to be clear, it was more that I loved it. But once they said, we're not going to pay you what you want, I was like, well, wait a minute. I can make this in a couple minutes trading. Now, the point, why am I saying this, is that the rules keep us safe. The rules are what keep the toxicity out of our lives. If you do everything right and you follow the rules and the trade went against you, you did everything right. It was just the market that wasn't in your favor at that very moment, for example. But the rules are designed, in my opinion, the ones that I put for my trading plan, for my, for what Mark taught us, the rules keep us safe and they keep you in the business, and you have to run this like a business. I think we should talk about what it means to run it like a business. I
Yeah.
mean, as I was saying that to someone today, he's like, what does that even mean? And I'm like, just keep it simple. Revenue minus expenses minus costs is your profit, right? I mean, it's as simple as that. But you know, if you don't take this seriously, if you don't treat this like a business, if you're not journaling and you're a relatively new trader, I don't understand. How do you run a business without an accountant? Like if you're a CEO running your own books, fine, but if you don't know your own numbers, how do you do it? I don't know. I use my data. My data tells me right now, ignore Amazon this week. It's not treating you well, but Tesla's doing great for you. Why would I go against that information? That information that's keeping me safe.
Yeah, and if you're new to this and you're finding a hard time doing it, but you're not actually respecting, or if you've been doing it for a while and you were just getting lucky, or not lucky, you were taking the strategies, they're working, but now the market is shifting, just like a business, the conditions shift. Like
Yeah.
things shift in the business world, right? It's like, hey, one day, I don't know, Dunder Mifflin, one day we're selling a bunch of paper, and then the next day we're selling less. It's like you actually have to change what you do, your strategies, how you move. And now the strategies generally are the same. The Mark 1 is always pretty much there and works. And these different strategies are there and they work. But how are they playing? Do I need to play them a little bit different? They're not working in this name because the price action's weird. Something I want to mention, like here's growth. Here's business growth. Watch this, guys. Business growth. Look at this chart here. And this is all Eddy. Like I never use this. I actually didn't even know it was a thing. That shows how much I know. ATR. Look at this. ATR on the names. Boom. Business growth. It's like, hey, I'm noticing. I don't trade Tesla now when it's under 3 ATR, unless it's like it's like hitting the 200 and it could bounce here and mark with the Qs. Unless there's a specific like strategy you're taking that's giving you an extreme edge, and you usually get volatility off of this level or something like that. If Tesla's ATR is 149 on a 10-minute frame, guess what name I'm not trading? Tesla. When I do the trade review tomorrow night of Tesla today, guess what? When Tesla was above 3 and 4 ATR, it was easy to make money in it. When it dropped down to 2 and I called it in Discord, I'm like, the ATR is too low. I'm done with Tesla. It was hard to make money. I took 2 or 3 losses. I'm like, oh, wait, it's not there. The ATR is low. Treating it like a business, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to adapt, use stochastics, other things that we talk about to actually grow your ability to trade and not just rely blindly on something as the market is evolving. As a business, you need to evolve with it. And that doesn't mean change everything that you do and relearn everything. We have the same foundation, right? But we're adding on as it's growing slowly. I'm not taking all the information on YouTube. I'm small things here and there. What Geronimo does in the VTF, so valuable. What you do, little tidbits about, well, I'm having a hard time. Maybe I've never done day stop losses before. You know what? I'm going to implement a 7-day rolling average stop loss. I'm not going to take double my 7-day rolling average P&L stop loss anymore. The market's tough. I'm having a hard time being consistent. I'm starting to notice these things. I'm journaling these things. CT's P&L tracker that we have posted in Discord for 10:30 and then 10:30 to 11. So it's a P&L tracker for 10:30 to 11, 9:30 to 10, 10 to 11, and then 11 to the end of the day. And I look back at it and it's like, wow, I lose 60% of my money when I trade over the course of a month when I trade past 11. So even if I could make more today, it's not worth it. I'm done. Business growth right there, right? Treating what you do as a business, not as a gambling hobby or an ego boost or something else. It's a business with a purpose, and you're making it work, and you're finding out what works as you go, evolving with the people who trade around you in our Discord room and the VTF and all that to actually get better at your job, which is day trading.
Yeah, I mean, Name a business that has been able to produce the same goods or services for decades and decades and decades and has not needed to adapt. I mean, look at Facebook. They just changed their name and their entire business model to adapt to the future. They realized there was, I mean, that's admirable in and of itself, if you ask me. Like, I'm not saying I like or don't like Facebook, but the truth of the matter is they're reinventing themselves. And in this industry, in this business, as day traders, if you don't reinvent yourself, you are going to be part of that statistic where you are just a statistic of a trader that didn't make it. When you look at, like, if you think of the market as a business and as a cycle, have you noticed, Gator, that a lot of the traders that we talk to who are unable, who blow out or have big red days or lose it all, they're the ones who are unable to adapt. They're the ones slamming. Like there was a trader I was talking to recently. Like I mentioned this, I think 2 weeks ago, that Tesla's ATR was 80 cents per minute candle. And I was like, guys, I've never seen Tesla below a buck this year, never mind 80 cents. And I got a text from the guy later in the day. He's like, I was slamming 50 contracts, on these Mark Ones in the middle of the day, and I lost everything. And I'm like, we've been talking about ATR for weeks, if not months. Why didn't you adapt? Why didn't you make the decision of, hey, I need to do something different now to adjust for my losses in my business? I mean, to me, like you're saying, it's kind of mind blowing that people don't adapt. And that's what's the beauty of this Discord and the T3 room is that, and being with traders like yourself, where we've all come up from the same foundation, is that we can recognize changes in the markets and we communicate them. So, for example, I brought up the thing with ATR because all of a sudden I was like, when is it not a good time to trade Tesla? How do I stop getting pumped up? Right? Like if I didn't have ATR on a day like today, I would have just had a big red day because Tesla was under $2 and I'm just sitting there like, oh wow, that Mark One was awesome. Congratulations, the options barely moved 10 cents. If PI was in your favor, you made money. If not, you're screwed, even though you caught the move. That's us adapting. That's us. That's our self-OODA loop saying, hey, watch out. Don't get hurt here. Adapt so that you can make money in this market and grow. And that's the beauty of that's what a day trader is that it is a very flexible human being. Because if you're not flexible as a day trader, you won't make it past the next cycle, if you ask me.
Huh. And you said markets go in cycles. So it's like
Mhm.
we're eventually going to hit another cycle where the traders can just go wild and take 50 calls in the middle of the day and get away with it. The problem is those guys will blow up when it gets back to like this. And maybe they survive, maybe they don't. Maybe you can hit enough, like you can be the home run hitter that's on the lineup because you just hit a lot of home runs, but you have a 160 batting average or something. you know, they exist, I guess, but that's not what you want to be. That's not the most healthy thing for you. It actually takes that adaptation and consistency and the willingness to adapt. And I was going to talk about it tomorrow is 3 or 4 of the personality traits that I see in people that I talk to without like calling people specifically, but a few different things that run through the traders that fail or that have really hard times right now. And that is one of the things, like their inability to change with the cycle. And it's like, well, this was working before, and you just expect it to keep working. Kind of like, and I don't know if it's an ego thing, if it's not willing to be wrong, if it's not like, I think there's a lot of different things there. But instead of just looking and slowly adapting, for some people, it just takes longer to adapt. Some people have a longer learning curve, and it's okay. Maybe it's part of the process, but and some people are just newer and it takes time. And then last week something was working, this week it's not. They haven't done it long enough to kind of handle that change, the cycle changes in the market. But the people that are willing to change and just admit, like, I need to add something else here. Hey, this is a good indicator. OODA loop was put in place for fighter pilots to give them an advantage. So that's like a warning signal going off. Like, somebody's on my tail, something's coming in, missiles locked onto me, like these different things. Tesla's ATR drops under $2. Doesn't mean the trade's not going to work, but that's, hey, something's locked onto me, something's changing. People are like, they ask me, I'm sure they ask you, how did you know to stay away from that? Why did you stay away from that? And sometimes I'm wrong when I say I'm staying away from this one. Like I wouldn't have taken the two and done this morning if Booth hadn't have said something. Thanks, dude. You made me some money. Like if he hadn't have said that, I wouldn't have taken it because I was like 50-50 on it just because of how it's been trading. I decided to take it. I took it because I allow the other influences in there. And then when Tesla starts dropping down from $4 ATR all the way down to like one, and I notice that change, it's like that instant OODA loop shift, that instant shift. It's like, oh, this is the warning sign, and I'm listening to those warning signs that I have put in place. CT says a 3-strike rule, ATR on certain names. There are different ways that you can help yourself, and then you can be like, hey, I don't like this Mark 1, even if it is a Mark 1, this 1-minute breakout, 2-minute breakout. Why? There's no ATR in Tesla, so I'm just going to leave it alone until this ATR picks back up over a certain amount. Like you can do that as a trader, implement things like that we're talking about, and we're giving it to you for free. It's not like we're charging people to be like, add this indicator to know when not to trade Tesla. You know, it's like this is YouTube. It's open source. Anybody can see it.
Yeah. I mean, everything you teach and everything we teach is available online. That's what's wild about. That's what's really interesting about because people say it's not a level playing field, and it's not. The swamp, as you call it, right? But at the same time, you and I come from completely different backgrounds. At least I assume you
We
were a
do.
Marine. I wasn't. We do. You live on the East Coast. I don't. You have kids. I don't. We're completely different individuals, but we come together for these C strategies, and we're able to make our businesses work. And there's something to be said about that. I mean, look, let me put it this way. If you're not treating this like a business, and what does that mean? That you're not trying to figure out at all times why it's not working, then I don't think you're taking this job seriously enough. I mean, if you look at Shark Tank, and I know you like that show because you reference it, but they always say like you're not obsessed with your business enough. You're not doing it, more to sell or more to make it work. This is important, right? Like you have to be at a point where you're so obsessed with success that you're going to change everything in your life to get it done. Like I literally quit a job I love. I literally bought a whole new set of monitors, computers, not because I wanted new stuff, but because I needed that extra performance boost. You have to be constantly looking for your edge, and that edge is always, always changing. That's why, that's what Mark taught us, right? It's like never be the same trader you were yesterday, basically. Always be adapting, always be a different trader. Um, can I ask you a question,
Yeah, send it.
Gator? How, so here's, okay, this is a question I've been wanting to ask you. The
Mm-hmm.
tables have turned. As somebody who has kids, who has dealing with the house, who's doing, like, I hear you. Like, you literally had your kid on the couch and you're like, boy, my kid could fall right now. And Rose was like, Gator, you should probably be careful with your kid and not take this Mark 1. But, like, I'm someone who's very, I wouldn't say prone to distraction, but, like, if my dog is trying to, like, piss on my, universal power supply, which controls the electricity to my computer, I'm distracted. And there are ways to get rid of distractions, but how do you handle with literally tons of background noise and keep your cool? Because that is not something a lot of people can do. I hear of a lot of people are like, "Oh, my brother walked in and I lost on the Mark 1 and it's his fault." It's like, no, it's not. It's your fault. So how do you do it?
Um, Depends on what it is, and sometimes I don't take strategies because of the distractions. So it's kind of like knowing when it's yeah marine power. I mean,
Okay.
it's part of that, but it's not. It's not just like you can. Oh, he's a marine. That's not it. Like there's a lot of marines that are idiots. No offense, and there's a lot of amazing marines. Like they're not different than anybody else in the sense of like the people are just people. So and discipline is learned, and the Marine Corps does teach discipline. But it's just being able to zone out the noise and focus on what's important and accepting that it's there. I've found that it's just like I've accepted. It's kind of like embrace the suck, as they say, and just be like, hey, it's there, And if they're making noise or if they're doing something, unless it requires my direct like conversational attention, um, like the wife asking me questions, I cannot trade if I'm being asked questions. Like specifically speaking, like if you're like you come down the stairs, if you could see like there's stairs in front of me, um, and she come down and ask me a bunch of stuff, and I'm looking at this. I'm like, I don't know. You're asking me five things. I'm looking at this. They're screaming. I don't know. But if it's just them making noise, then it's just background noise. So it's putting things kind of in its category and understand. And it's like, hey, this is here. They're okay. There's noise going on, but they're okay. They're yelling or they're doing whatever, but they're okay. This is happening, but it's okay. So I'm looking, and I know the rules in my head, and I know the strategies, and I know what I'm looking for. So the market, what's in front of me, is muscle memory. I'm not taking strategies that I don't understand. Simplify. I'm not taking things that I don't know. So I'm so comfortable taking a Mark 1, a green takes red, a 5 minute breakout, or a Mark 5, that I don't actually, this requires little to no thinking. So when you get to the point that this is just something that's happening, and this is just watching and observing, and then taking, and it's kind of just like that constant OODA loop process, I can add the one more thing. If it's the kid, like I can look at the kids to make sure they're okay. It's just part of the OODA loop. Mark 1's not there yet. I'm okay if I miss it. I accept that I might miss trades when there's distractions going on. And so I'm not mad when I miss it. So I don't have that emotional up and down. So I'm looking at the chart here, and let's say I was trading Tesla. I don't know. Let's say I take this 2 minute like I did today, and it pops up, and then the kids, or there's a distraction, or they're pulling on this and doing something. It's like, okay, hey, how's it going? I'm looking back here, and it's all just kind of like almost going through the motion. Like if the dog's coming, or if the dog was coming out, hey, move out of the way. Looking back up here, like I try to just make the noise part of the OODA loop as just something that I've accepted as going to be there, and not something that I'm annoyed with. If my wife's home and I'm trading, my just thing is, hey, she's going to be sitting here and just randomly start talking to me. So I do this, and I'll randomly talk to her, and I just pull this out because these aren't open back. So I'll just open it up, and I'll just randomly say stuff, or she'll be saying something, and I'll kind of be listening and looking, and I'll talk on here. And so I try to make the distraction part of my OODA loop and part of my just normal thing. And then if I'm having a conversation with her, and I'm not so like tunnel visioned on the market, we'll just use my wife because she doesn't watch these shows. She listens to me talk enough, so she doesn't know when I talk about her. I just tell her all the time, I'm like, hey, I talk about you and you have no idea. She's like, what do you say? I'm like, watch the show. She's like, I'm not watching your show. I'm like, okay. Then you're not going to know. But like, I make her a part of my kind of like surrounding. So it's not like an annoyance outside coming and hitting me over the head. That's going to piss me off. Like, I'm going to get mad. I don't want to get mad at her. And sometimes I do. But so she's there talking to me. I try to talk to her. I'm doing whatever. No, I'm looking, if she's like, is there anything you're looking at right now? Or is there any reason you can't trade? I'm like, I'm waiting for this setup to happen. If I say, like, I'm watching this, I might have to stop. Why? What are you trying to ask me? And then she'll ask what it is, and I'm watching, and she'll be talking about, hang on a second. And then, like, I know I need to focus and watch the tape, and I can't handle her asking a question that I have to think about while I'm watching the tape. But if I'm just waiting for a setup to come, I know for that little bit of time I can kind of let the noise in.
Mm.
So it's kind of, hopefully that wasn't too much of a ramble and a little bit more of a question, or a little bit more of an answer. But I allow the noise to be part of the OODA loop and not something that I'm mad at, and not something that annoys me. It's just part of what I have to be in. I don't have another option. I don't have the option of going somewhere else. I don't want to, unless I want to get mad at her, I don't want to get mad. So how do I handle that? I just have to allow it to be there and be like, this is okay. If Amazon is about to go, and usually I take 5 to 10 contracts of Amazon, and my kid is climbing on the couch, and I look at him, I'm like, that could go bad. Okay, 1 contract of Amazon. Now I'm looking at the trade, and then I'm like, don't do that. But I'm still going to take the trade. I'm like, you shouldn't do that. Usually the sitter's here, so that's not. But whatever it is, I'll be like, okay, I'm having some distractions. Know yourself. I'm going from 5 contracts to 2 contracts just because I know I might have to crap, and jump out. And if my trade was holding the trade for 10, 20 seconds, it's like, hey, not that I'm going to give this some room to work. And that's my idea of a trade. And the kids are hollering. I can't be like, that's my idea of a trade. And then jump up and run out and then miss it and come back and be mad at them or whatever it is. So it's just accepting, I guess, is the shortest answer. To if you want to throw out all of the BS that I just said, that might be good, and whatever the long-winded thing. It's accepting. I accept the noise, that it's there, that it's okay, and then I just kind of use it as just part of, the part of the OODA loop that's there. It's just something that's there that I have to deal with, and I just accept it. It's definitely easier trading without it. Like it's so much easier trading without it, and I enjoy trading more without it. But sometimes I just have to accept that it's there and be like, hey, it is what it is, man. It's like, if I can't handle it, stop trading. And so I just
So,
tell myself that. Sorry, go ahead.
so true. No, 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 so true. Like life doesn't stop because you're in a position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things happen. Like I'm in my own office now. I just moved, right? So I have a walkway, and if my wife wants to go to work, she has to go through here to get to the car. And then there's two dogs running around. And the truth of the matter is that you can do everything to try to stop it, but at the end of the day, people aren't gonna. If people are tiptoeing around you because they're scared, like you're toxic, right? You have to just. You know what I really you said something I really liked. It's like you don't care if you take one contract or five. I mean, you'll adjust based on the situation, and that's just someone to me who doesn't care about the money, just wants to trade smart. And that's long-term success to me, right? Because if you're there thinking, oh boy, if I don't get this trade right now, I might not have a good day. It's like, hate to break it to you, man, but this one trade's not going to make your career right now. If you have something that's pressing, take care of it. At the same time, you keep saying you're a military. I mean, you were a Marine. Like, I bet you had more than one thing going on. You know, you're used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But for people who are not in that position, I think it's important to just to have that mentality to be, and I'll end on this, but like, hey, life's gonna happen, let it happen, do whatever you can to avoid it, but don't be toxic to the people around you.
Yeah, and that's the worst type of trader because your family's gonna hate that you're a trader.
Oh yeah.
Like any job, if you just come home and berate your family because of it, you know,
Can I tell you something? Can I tell you a true story now that you said that?
yeah,
I was the biggest a-hole to my family for the longest time, and I attribute it to trading because I was so toxic for such a long time because I lost not huge amounts of money, but I lost money for such a long period of time. It made me into a person I don't ever want to be again. And that desire to not be toxic is what drives me to be a trader today. And it's so important to get to that level where you don't care about, a small red day or a losing trade, but it takes time to get to that point. And it's not overnight. Like maybe for you it was quicker than someone like myself, but we all go through this differently. And uh, it, I've been a-holes to people that I love more than anything because I had a bad trade.
mm-hmm.
That is just beyond unacceptable, especially where I am now in my life and career. It's just beyond unacceptable, but you have to live with it and learn from it and grow from it.
You do, and that's all you can do is accept it and apologize and move on from it and be like, hey, you know, be better next time, and kind of, after you ask for forgiveness, is go through, and do things to change. And I found that not that I never get mad or I don't get frustrated when I miss something. I'm like, man, I wanted that trade. I can't tell you the amount of trades I've missed lately because I have other stuff going on. Like I've missed five figures worth of money because the kids were doing something. I'm like, oh man, I want this setup. I'll tell you though, there's been some times when they've saved me. It's like I'm gonna slam the setup and I have to go take care of them. I come back, I'm like, oh, that didn't work. And you just accept it. And it's easier said than done, but you have to live in reality, and you don't live in a bubble, and accepting the distractions that are there are gonna help you.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's
yeah, go
you
ahead.
were talking about that in your show that I think it was perspective or whatever it was, but like you have to realize how lucky we are to be in the position we are to be as full-time day traders. And like the other day I had breakfast with my wife at like 10 or 9 or whatever, and I missed I can't remember what it was, but it was a pretty big news flow. And I was sitting there thinking I could have taken this news flow, probably taken a grand out of it. But the reason I'm, you know, a full-time day trader is to have more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you look at someone like CT who's done after the first hour, or you who's like, yeah, I'm gonna go golfing after, like we choose, like this is the cost of business, right? Is that you're gonna miss trades, but you're doing it because you want that freedom to be like, oh, hey, I don't have to come to work today.
You want the
Or hey,
freedom until you start making money, and then you want the money.
yes, it's true. But for someone like myself that has no intent to size up anytime soon, I'm very happy making my, small 4-digit days or high 3-digit days just consistently because I know that if I F it up, I'm going right back to that 9 to 5 and I'm not making that money and I'm working harder for someone who doesn't care for me and I could lose my job like that.
Yeah.
Perspective, which was one of your better shows, if I may add.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
And people watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, check it out. No swag. Sorry for taking so long to answer this, but I'll ask Eddie. Is no swag asked in Discord if there was one strategy or one thing you know in the market now that you wish you knew when you first started trading, what would it be? And I mean, for me, he said I think to me and then to you. So for me, I this is really when I got actively started. So thankfully, I did not go through. I did trade with other services a little bit. I was like, this isn't it, this isn't it. Nothing against them, not going to say who they were. I was like, this isn't it. Um, so I learned early on when I really got going what worked and like Mark One and stuff like that. There's some toxicity things that I'll mention, but I'll let Eddie. That's probably since you've done it longer, more of a question for you. Um, so what are either strategies or things you know now that you could go back and tell 13-year-old or even 20-year-old, Eddie?
Wow. Well, I don't think first off, I don't think that's the right question to say, what strategy would you do? Because the strategies are always changing. Like when I was in the room, you had one Mark 1 or one Mark 5, and that was it. There was no chart reset. You have a Mark 5 and either hit stay highs or you get stopped out, and that was your morning.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not, in hindsight, it's crazy, but the chart reset was not a thing until about a year after I joined the room. I think the right question to ask is, um, it's not so much a question, but you have to understand that there are people around you who know more, not only about trading, but about life. And if they give you advice and you just ignore it, you're probably doing yourself a disservice. Like, yeah, okay, if someone says, you should do this and you should do that, and you're like, no, that's stupid, I wouldn't do that. Fine, but if someone whose experience comes to you, like Mark always said to us, he was like, if you really want this, why aren't you adapting sooner? And I always said to myself, I don't need to adapt. I'm doing exactly what you said. I'm fine. That everything's perfect. Even though I'm losing money, it's going to work eventually. But when he said go to Fidelity in July of 2020, and I waited till middle of August 2020, I waited a month and a half, and I kept losing money. And I didn't take that advice to make the switch because I never even opened the Fidelity website. I was so set on Schwab. I didn't adapt. So, like learning from other people really is the meat and potatoes of this industry. Like, look at yourself and myself. Like, you and I would get crushed in a market like this if there wasn't a Geronimo. But Geronimo is the one who's teaching us new things. He's saying, "Hey, this is a much more technical market. This is, we're learning. We're always learning." And whenever someone says something to me, I never brush it off anymore. I always am like, okay, why did he say that? What does this individual know that I don't know? Like if like look at the ATR example. Like you could have easily said, "Oh, hey, I don't really care about ATR. I'm not going to listen to Eddie on this one." But how much money has it saved you not trading the chop? So I guess the short answer in my rant is not so much what strategy would I have done. It's learn who the people are that can really help you grow as a trader and just exploit the hell out of it. I remember like I talked to Booth in like a long time ago, and he said this is why you should go on margin. And then I talked to CT, and he said this is how I know how to size up or what kind of size to take. This is the thinking I have. And then I talked to Gator, and he was like, this is what you need to know when you want to go full-time professional trader. You can easily be one of those people and be like, oh, I can do it by myself. I don't need people's help. I know it all. But you need to accept that you don't know it all and that you can grow with it. Like, does that make sense?
Oh yeah,
Does that make
be
sense?
humble.
it's be humble, but it's be open to change because you are not going to be the same trader you were yesterday, guaranteed. I'm a different trader than I was yesterday, right? We're always adapting, we're always evolving, and if you're there sitting thinking, you don't need to change, then I don't understand how you make it in this industry at this point. I don't.
Mm-mm. I think a lot of the people that are having a hard time, and I'm not nobody specifically, and there are different reasons for having a hard time. And you could actually be doing fine and having a hard time. You could just like be going through a little bit of a rough patch, but the adapting is what helps you get through it. And all the people that are becoming or continuing their success after that is because they're like they recognized something they were doing wrong and they were adapting. They reached out, they did all this different stuff, and now they're adapting and changing. And Praveen, like I saw him posting in Discord, and I took a trade after he did it. It was like every time he was just watching for the cues to hit a certain level, and when they failed like a pivot level, he would just short Amazon, and he would just wait, and then the cues would hit a pivot, and he would just short Amazon when they failed the pivots. You know, I don't know how long you've been doing stuff like that, but I know Geronimo's talked about stuff, and when you see stuff like that, and I took a trade after he said it, I was like, oh, that's what you're talking about. Okay, I think I made 2 points on like a few Amazon contracts. I was like, boom, you know, and it was literally, sometimes it's literally that simple. It's like I respect the people around me. There you go. Yep, Amazon hit VWAP 3 times, 3 for 3. you know, you can do stuff like that. The same reason I took the this 2 minute or this breakout here in Tesla this morning. I was like 50-50. I was like, I don't know. It's just been choppy the last week. And then Booth was like, hey, I'm going to try it. That doesn't mean I always listen to what Booth says. It doesn't mean I always don't. But like I was 50-50. And then he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to try it. I'm like, you know what? I have a lot of luck. Luck's not the word. I have a lot of like success on green ticks reds early in the day on a 2 minute chart. I'm going to give it a shot. It's gapped up, it's strong, it's kind of doing better than the market. Boom. And that started off my day. I respect the people around me. I'm humble, I'm listening, people are saying stuff, I see it, I'm trying it, I'm watching different stuff, and that's helping me grow, and it's not keeping me in that I'm just doing what worked before. And like what I'm doing then, some of the stuff is the same, but it's adapting as the market's adapting.
I was talking to a trader well, it feels like a couple weeks ago, but it was actually last week, and he showed me his orders on Fidelity. And I told him, well, okay, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just taking Mark ones and 2 minute green takes reds. I'm like, okay, you're losing every single trade. You get no PI and your fills are horrible. Yet you size up as the day goes on. Why? And he said, well, I know the strategies work, but everybody's making money around me, but it's not working for me on Fidelity. He literally one trade out of like 20 had a PI, which is
Mm-hmm.
unusual for Fidelity, right? That's not normal. And I kept asking him, why haven't you adapted? Why haven't you made the changes necessary? Why haven't you been able to sit there and be like, wait a minute, I'm losing money nonstop. I need to stop right away. And I think it's a mindset. I think it's the type of some individuals are just so like people, just because I have rules doesn't mean I can't change the rules,
Mm-hmm.
right? If the Mark 1 isn't working for whatever reason, all of a sudden I just say, okay, my trading plan is no longer take Mark 1s, right? If Gator says, or if you say something like, hey, the stochastics aren't working right now, they're not giving me proper entries anymore, I'll be like, okay, my trading plan has changed. I need to adjust and do something proper. I think a lot of people get so set on doing the same thing and just thinking it's automatic. I'll just do the Mark 1 all day and I'll just make money. No, it's not. Trading requires, critical thinking. You might not have taken that 2 minute green takes red today, but someone said to you, hey, I'm going to take it. It could work. And you're there thinking, you know what? Yeah, he's right. I could do it. And listen, we're a hedge fund. If you think about it, all of us, we're a 3, 4, 500 person hedge fund. We have multiple sets of eyes, but we all think the same way. And that's how we can all find success. And I
Mm-hmm.
really hope that anybody who's not able to find success reaches out to you or myself or whoever and just say, "Hey, I'm not able to make money right now. What are you doing? How is it how is it working for you?" A lot of the traders I talked, let me tell you something. I'm dealing with two traders right now, one who is constantly blowing up and the other one who was constantly blowing up. The difference between the two is I gave them both the same advice, perfect, the exact same advice. One of them is following it to a T and one isn't. I'm not saying my advice was better or not better, but like if you're not willing to reach out and try to figure out what's working from someone like yourself or myself who have experience or are leading others, you know, ask yourself questions if you really want to be doing this for the rest of your life, because if you can't adapt, you're done. The next cycle is going to wipe you out.
Or do you want to do it with us? It's like
Or
if
do you
I
want
reach out, it's like I'm at least gonna take into account and do it. And like if I don't like your advice, I'm just gonna be like, I mean, me personally, I just be like, not for me, man. And
to?
like,
Yeah.
it's the same thing for you. It's like, if you were asking me some things, like my advice might not be good for you. And I would tell you, like, or I assume you would tell me, like, if you're like, man, I'm having whatever, I'd be like, well, I mean, I haven't watched a ton of dudes on YouTube. I don't see very many people sharing trade, like legitimately live trades. You can go back and actually watch me live trade and see how I trade names. And I might be like, well, this is how you need to trade Tesla. And I might say that to you. And you're like, man, I can't do it. Like the way I trade isn't that. Then as somebody giving advice, I should probably find a way to change and tell you something else that could help you. But like if you if let's see I'm trying to think how to say this because I keep going back and forth with the use, but like if you were giving me that advice and you were the person that was successful in a name like Tesla, at minimum, because I reached out to you, I should give the advice serious consideration and come back with, this is why I can't do that, or this is why I'm having a hard time with that. Then I've given you, in a sense, the respect you deserve, and I say deserve, but like if you're giving me advice as somebody coming to you, respect of your time that you've taken out of your day and helping other people and all that to talk to me, you've at least given it due consideration and being like, this is why I can't do that. This is what I'm thinking. And it can kind of be that back and forth, assuming a person has the time to actually sit there and go back and forth with you. But sometimes it is as simple as just like micro goals, or sometimes it's just as simple as like little things. You don't have to trade, if you go back and watch my videos, the same way I trade to make money in Tesla. You don't have to trade the same way you do, taking the same names or the same way Booth does. There's a lot of different ways to adapt the strategies and adapt things to fit you. What did Geronimo say on the show tonight? He said something that was really good towards the end about other people. And I'm sure someone can type it, and I'm just like, it's slipping my brain of the exact words. But be influenced by others, but don't mimic others, in a sense, was what he said. I don't remember if you were on or if you remember what he said at the end, but it was a sense of that. It's like take what other people give you, and then take the good, what you can do, and leave the rest. Adapt it to you. Adapt other people's advice to you, and use it if you can and if it's good to how you trade.
Yeah. 100% of the trades I've taken where I've just followed Kelly into a trade, I've lost. If he says I'm in a trade and I don't see it and I just mark it in blindly, I've lost on every single one of those trades, guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
But if I see what he's doing ahead of time and I like his entry and I agree with it and it fits my strategies, I tend to do well. So it's true, you can't mimic other traders. Like I can't, no matter how many videos you put out, I'm never going to trade exactly like you.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can see what you like in a trade, I can predict what you're going to think, predict what you're going to go for, and then from there I can, come up with. See, I never understood people who are in our room and don't fully know the C strategies like really inside and out and like pursue them. Like if I like Tesla and you see a Mark 1, you should be able to know, hey, this is the trigger, this is where he's going to exit. I know what he's going to do.
Or at least
Right?
what
That's
you
what's
should do. Yes, like you should at
yeah.
least have a trading plan in mind, like a Mark One. So, for instance, when you are in a sport, let's say you're playing golf, let's say you're playing basketball, let's say you're playing baseball, you hear about baseball players like trying to hit to certain spots, pitchers throwing pitches to certain spots, golfers trying to hit a certain spot, quarterbacks throwing to a certain spot. They're not blindly doing anything. They
Mhm.
understand what they're doing. They're professionals at doing this. No, sometimes they miss, sometimes they mess up. Nobody is 100%. As a trader, you could view yourself in the sense of an athlete. You're an armchair quarterback. You are going into a strategy, and we're talking about, for those who are new or whatever, with the C strategies, not that you're just learning them. but like you've been doing this and you've been in here, and at after a while of trading, you're trying to trade, you don't understand them. I'm not talking about people that are just watching this or just learning the C strategies, but if you regularly trade them, you should be able to instantly identify them, know basically what shot you're trying to take, the goal of it, where your best entries are for your wins, when you should exit. Hey, this is the trade. It's like the C strategy is like a 10-second, 15, 20-second trade. Now, I could do more, but that's the trade. You know what I mean? And you need to understand that about these strategies. And when you're doing them, and like, here it is, boom, 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 boom. And I think that's kind of saying the same thing you're saying.
Yeah. I just want to answer what some of the people are saying.
Mm-hmm.
To be clear, when I lose on Kelly's trades, the ones that I tend to lose on are the ones where he's like, "Oh, I'm in NVIDIA," and then I'll just take NVIDIA and slam five contracts. I don't pay attention to what he's doing. I don't have any conviction because I don't know what the setup is. I haven't even pulled up the chart half the time. But if I'm paying attention to NVIDIA, for example, and there's a 2 minute there, and I know Kelly, his style of trading, he's like, I would take that trade. If I take that trade and he says he's in it, I have more conviction in it because I believe in the trade more. My point is that if you just chase after somebody, if you just take their trade without knowing what they're looking for, what their risk tolerance is, you're gonna get slapped around more often than not. I'm not saying, the trades that I've done, that Kelly has taken that I've done well are the ones that I predicted ahead of time. I've been able to say, oh, here's the Mark One. I know what my entry is. I know where my exit is. I know how I'm going to execute the trade, and I know if it goes against me, I'm out, done, goodbye, thank you very much, right? So my point is that, like look at Kathy for example. It's unbelievable what she's able to achieve, but I can't hold a $10, $100 Amazon contract for multiple days on end without knowing exactly what she's looking at. And I know she looks at very different things. So it's so important, influence, don't mimic. It really, really is important.
It is. You and I've said this before, and it's the same as like you're saying. I've never like if Geronimo is just like I like this here. I'm just like okay, I'm in. You know, that's not how you win or adapt as a trader. When myself or Booth, like for instance, perfect example today. This 2 minute green takes red / one and done in Tesla. I know this strategy in and out. There was nothing I didn't know. I knew this is technically a good setup. I knew it could work to the upside. I knew all that. Like, and then Booth is like, I'm going to take it. Booth saying, I'm going to take it. I was not blindly jumping in on him
Yeah.
saying something. I fully comprehend everything involved in the strategy and how I read tape and the cues, what I watch, and all this other stuff. Him saying that was that like, yeah, okay, I like it a little bit more. It was like I understood everything, and he's like, yeah, I like it too. Okay, there's two of us that like it. Let's give it a shot. It's that little bit extra thing. Praveen, when he was like, I was actually watching the same thing he was watching when he was shorting Amazon off these levels. I had actually been shorting something else. I actually think I was shorting the cues, practicing, finding contracts and how I like to trade the cues. I'm working on trading the cues more lately. But he said that. I'm like, oh, yeah. And I already understood what Praveen meant when he said, I'm shorting, like I'm looking at this and doing this. I'm shorting or going long Amazon off when the Qs do this or off when this does this. Like as soon as he said it, everything, I understood what he meant. I understood what he was looking at. I have done the same thing. I wasn't blindly doing anything. And I was like, oh, wait, that has worked. It's like I know what he's talking about, something like Geronimo does and other stuff. I'm going to try that. And it's a legitimate strategy, shorting these pivot levels and these rips. And I took it and then used it to make money. I'm not just like, oh, he likes it when it hits VWAP. Okay. Oh, VWAP. Short. I lost money. Why did I lose money? It's like, no duh, you lost money. No, but because you didn't understand it. You didn't take the general account, like what else is happening. Is it blowing through VWAP? What's the volume? What's the prints like? Is where are the stochastics at? Like if you use those indicators, are you comfortable with the trade? Not as Gator or Boof or Eddie comfortable with the trade? Why did you take this trade? What was the shot you were looking for? If you're a quarterback, what was the pass you were looking for? If you're a golfer, what was the line you were looking for on your putt or your drive? What were you trying to accomplish in that shot? Or were you just, ripping and, gripping and ripping, or just, Hail Mary, just throw it down and see what happens? Or were you taking a specific shot that you knew what you were trying to accomplish, whether or not you accomplished it? And maybe that's a decent metaphor for that.
I just want to, yeah, just to clarify, I'm the type of trader for just so we're 100% clear. There's a reason my losses have been rather small. I chuck it really quickly. If it goes against me, I really don't give it much wiggle room. My rather large losses have been, something goes completely the opposite direction, while I'm in the trade, or the spreads open up and I mark it out and I get screwed. But there's a reason I keep my losses rather small. It's because I have my finger on the button and I'm just sitting there, and as soon as I'm out, I'm out. I just release the market, right? So if you look at someone like, a lot of these traders that say, oh, I'm in Tesla here now, they're generally saying it after they enter the trade. So if I mark it in right away and I say, oh, I'm in it. Okay, why is he in it? What am I looking at? Ooh, it's red, I'm out. That's when I tend to take those losses. But if I'm there sitting there thinking, well, I know what Kelly likes, or I know what Gator likes, you know, all of a sudden I'm able to not, it's not so much garner conviction, but enter at the same time they do. Your entry is so critical. That's why mimicking and influencing whatever Geronimo said is so true. If you're going to do Gator's Google stochastic strategy and you don't know the Google stochastic strategy, you're always going to be late to the entry and you're always going to be late to the exit. We are, if you want to do that, fine, but you're going to have a tough time. You're never going to be able to predict when Gator's entering a position or exiting a position. If he says, "Oh, I like Google here for the stochastic short or the Gator one or whatever you call it," if you don't know what it is ahead of time, you're going to be late. If you're waiting on someone to say, "Oh, I'm in Tesla here," you are automatically, I'm not saying you're going to get a worse entry price, but if you don't enter at the right time, a lot of our trades, what we do, give you different results, give you mixed results. So when I enter a Mark One, if I say I like the Mark One on Tesla and I don't call it out in the room, that's because you should know what the Mark One trigger is, right? If the trigger is 940 and you're waiting for me to say I'm in it, you're going to be late. You're going to get in at 941, for example, potentially, because I try to be in as soon as possible when the green starts moving, and I'm pretty good at it. I tend to enter at the right time, but if I don't, I'm out. As simple as that. I'm out so quickly, which is so important in this market.
And Darian, what you're saying is that is difficult or hard to do when you're on a cash account because that could be the last trade of your day. What you're
Yep.
saying is true.
hmm
However, what we're saying is still true. And I started on a cash account with $8,000, and now I'm above that. Eddie, I don't know if when you started in here, you were on a cash account in the
Hey.
T3. You were cash because you said you were cash and you went to margin.
Yep. Yep.
The strategies are still there. The trick is I talk about it in a different show. I'll talk about it again in another one, so you don't. I mean, you can go back and watch if you want to, but a strategy is a strategy, and you have to take it and know what you're trying to do. And I said it before. I used to sit in my pickup truck with a cell phone, connecting to my Mac, which probably couldn't barely run what I was doing, and trade the first one and done in Apple, Mark One, know your limit 8, and then I logged out every day. I just took the first one. It was like first Mark One, first whatever. I could sit here in a name that was strong and just take that and then lock it in. And some days I lost. And then I went back to my job and it was fine. And I just kept following the strategy. Like, if you're going to do something, you just have to do it over and over for that consistency to add up. No one day is in either direction. And if a Mark One is a strategy, and you're just taking the first one of the day in the strong name, and then you're doing it the next day, and you're doing it the next day, and you're doing it the next day. And over time, that adds up, and you can't hold losers. You just have to chuck it and let it go. And
My average hold time last month was a whopping 16 seconds. Do you know how long 16 seconds is for me? Like, I think last year, I think my average was under 10 seconds. So I'm trying to hold a little bit longer, but I'm just so uninterested in holding a position for an extremely long time, which I know 16 seconds sounds like not much, but the truth of the matter is that I've been in enough situations where a position has gone against me or the market drops right in my face. I don't want to deal with it. I take the money every time, and it's working for me. If I can make 50 cents, a dollar, $2 in the morning, and I do that two, three, four times on one or two, three contracts, fine. I made my day.
Yeah.
Like that's it, done. It's just. I mean, there have been mornings where I make more in the first 5 minutes that I would make a week in my last job in 5 minutes versus 40 hours, and that's just keeping the losses small by selling quick.
I made a week's pay in the first 3 minutes of the market today of my old job or more. Yeah.
It's not. I hate to be an a-hole, and I know there's small accounts on there, but if you have margin and you have four times your buying power, and you took two contracts at Tesla, assuming you didn't have a $200,000-300,000 job before Gator, it's not that hard. It's really not. You take those options explode,
Hmm.
and if you're sharp and you're toxic free and you're ready to go, those Mark ones will change your life.
Once you develop consistency and you kind of learn it, and it is hard, and I understand the difficulty because I've been there. But I'm telling you, I couldn't go back. I'd take a personal loan out of 30 grand and just sit there and trade and just force myself to trade that because like I showed that picture earlier. It's just not like it's hard because we try to do more. It's hard because
Yeah.
we force things. It's hard because we break the rules. It's not hard to take 3 or 4 trades and be up $1,000 and be done. It's hard because I want to make 5 grand or I want to make 10 grand. Pick your number. I want to make 2 grand. I want to make another $500. That's when it gets hard. If all you're doing is logging on and bandit trading for 30 minutes, a strong name, taking the first Mark 1, know your limit 8, these strategies still work and they're just as good as ever. You just have to pick the name. It's not always Tesla. We just take Tesla because it pays us 2 or 3 points at a time or 50 cents at a time. And like most of my trades are probably a little bit longer and then also shorter. I've worked on holding longer because of the Google strat and stuff. So some of those trades are 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Um, because I'm letting stochastics play out. But what you said earlier with knowing when I enter, just using this stochastic trade, a lot of times I'm in at the level I want to be in at, and then I sell to where it's next to impossible for me to lose. Like if I had 10 contracts, I sell 5, and then I let the rest play out. Like I very rarely on long holds have any risk. Like anything longer than that, like you're saying 16 20 second hold time, if I'm in it any longer than that, there's no risk because I've sold enough to where there's not risk. Like I'm not sitting there holding a red position for 10 minutes,
10 minutes.
for 5
Yeah.
minutes, for even 30 seconds. Like if I'm red for more than 10 seconds, I'm like, that's worse than my kid falling off the couch. It's like, that ain't happening. Like, I'm out of this.
No, I mean that's the thing though. I mean my number one goal, don't forget, my what distinguishes me, in my opinion, from a lot of other traders is that everything I do is to keep toxicity at its minimum. Like I am so uninterested in going back into that frame of mind is that I rather sell the position quick and take the money now than potentially hold for longer for a higher gain at the same time, more time for it to whip in your face. I mean, there was one trader in the room, he said there's nothing guaranteed in this market, but 80% of the time, or whatever he said, you'll get a pop after the Mark 1. I'll take that. I'll take that over, and do you know how many traders have sent me their journals and they're holding a position, like you look like win, 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 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, huge loss, hold it for 2 minutes. I
Hmm.
am not interested in doing that. I'll take the quick money every day, and especially in this market. Like if it's another market where that's really trending, okay, yes, I will hold, especially with the 15-second chart, which has been phenomenal. Yes, I will hold, but the, if you're not in a cash account, that's a different story. But take the money and go. Like we're not here to make our year in a day. We're here to make cash flow for the day. Period. That's my mentality. If I was a Warren Buffett, that's a whole different story. But I'm not. I'm an Eddy. I just want to make my 500,000, $2,000 days and live my life. Not worry about a job. Right? That's
I
pretty
mean,
much it.
you're never gonna go broke doing that, right? I mean, what? If you're making 1,000, you're making 250 something $1,000, and you could have done that on the first 2 trades in Tesla. The first green takes red and the first Mark 1, and Tesla would have made you that $1,000 a day, even on 5 contracts, and That's $253,000. That was a year. That's not always that easy every single day. You don't always have Tesla doing that. But generally speaking, those opportunities are there if you're willing to wait for the right ones and adapt and to learn. It's not as easy for everybody, and we understand, and we want to help
We were
different
there.
people get there.
We were there. I
Hmm.
mean, I lived abroad for 6 years and I had $7,000 left to my name. And I said to myself, okay, I'm just going to travel for 3 months. And I came back to the US with nothing. I was lucky that I had parents who were able to help me find a place and, front me a little bit. But then I had to start working and I had a small account and I worked my way up doing a cash account, doing Mark one or two Mark ones or Mark fives a day. And I would go to work. And over time, you just build up that account. You just, a lot of people, they just try to lottery ticket, like, oh, all in on Tesla right here. I can either lose it all or make it all. It's just like, is that really the type of life you want to live? Like,
Yeah, and you don't have to be like us. And I'm a more aggressive trader often, at least in size, than Eddie. That doesn't make me better or worse. Like Eddie's talking
it's irrelevant.
about making
Irrelevant.
it is complete. The amount that you make, oh, as size is irrelevant.
Eh.
Hey, that's what she said. It is though. Like what you make does not matter. This is not a game where I'm playing against Eddie. You know, his big day might be my like flat day. Praveen in here like making whatever like or it could be the other way around. Or like there are traders in here that make 10 times what I make. Like no joke. There are people in here that make a lot more than me. Kelly probably makes six figures a day. Like hey, maybe joking, maybe not, but like there are some people that are killers in here. I'm not comparing like P&L to theirs or anything else. You're not a better or worse trader because you pull $500 out of the market when somebody else pulls 5,000. You don't have to pull that amount out. And you're not wrong if you're comfortable taking more size and you're in here like, oh yeah, but if you just took 50 and you did this and you held for all this amount of time and this happened, you can make more. If that's what you do, man, more power to you. Like,
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with that if you're good at it, if you're not psychologically toxic, if you understand what you're doing, if you're actually executing a plan, your golf swing, your quarterback throw, your pitch, and you're actually you're taking your shot, and it's a specific shot, a specific trade, and you're executing that plan, and you're like, I'm doing it with more size or I'm more aggressive. There's nothing wrong with that. Geronimo trades, and he's in something, and he's like, I'm still in because I'm waiting for this level to hit, but he might have already sold some and he has his own thing that he's doing. He's not wrong for doing that. His strategy and what he's doing is slightly different, and we're all doing little bit different things, and your trading should be set up for you, not for me. I can handle a $10,000 red day, like, and it's not a brag, but I can just handle that, and I'm just like, well, whatever. It's not gonna. I'll make it back tomorrow, and or not tomorrow, but like, whatever. Generally speaking, not all the time. There are times when I don't want to handle that and I'm flat and I'm having a hard time, and that would completely wreck me. But that doesn't mean that's how you should trade. Eddie shouldn't mimic his like everything after me. I shouldn't mimic mine after him. And if you're a little bit more, you can handle more risk. Good. If you can't handle the risk that we're doing, that's also good. It's okay to be that little bit different and to have different stuff and the different risks. I think the main point you're getting at, Eddie, and kind of me too, is you have to have those parameters for yourself based on yourself and what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, if I told you my best day ever, Gator, you'd be like, oh, that was my Tesla Mark One. Like not really, but like
Yeah.
I've never had a 5 digit day. I've never had a 5 digit day, and I'm fine with that. I've
Mm-hmm.
also never had a 5 digit red day, and
Yep.
I want that for my life. Like I have specifically said to myself, I never want to have a position where I'm able to make so much that I can lose that much at the same time. Because you have to realize what we're doing is effing risky. When you're taking a Mark One in the morning, you don't know if you're going to get PI, you don't know if Tesla's going to fail or the market's going to, Ukraine gets invaded, right there in the news. You got to be in a position where you can handle and you can move forward with those big red days. Like I can tell you right now, if I had a $10,000 red day, knock on wood, that'll never happen. I wouldn't be able to handle it. Like I could deal with it like financially, but it would be psychologically devastating. But that's just because I decide to take less risk. Now, does that
Mhm.
mean I'm a better or worse trader than the next guy? Zero. Irrelevant. If you make 500 bucks a day or 200 bucks a day and you can live off that and you're able to get, the freedom from it, you've won. You've won. Like I was working more than 40-hour weeks making 69 grand a year, and now I'm working way less hours making more than that a year. That's the freedom I want. That's why we do it. And if it means I'm taking two contracts and not Gator's 30 contracts, fine. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Do what you got to do what makes sense for you. If I start taking, Gator's tier size, like what was your tier size today? 5 or 10 or 20?
10 for the most part. Yeah, it was 10. It's low conviction right
On
now.
Tesla, I'll shit myself right here I just can't. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. All that matters is you trade smart, you trade well, and you have the opportunity, in my opinion, to just walk away and be like, I own the market today. I took the money out and now I can go golfing or whatever it is you like to do after that.
Yeah.
I think people forget that. I really think people forget that. People think that you have to sit there all day and keep scalping and keep trying, but the truth of the matter is that that means, that means the market owns you sometimes.
And I don't want to
Like
be
yeah,
owned.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm full time, with the responsibilities like Geronimo. But like Geronimo says every day, yo, if it wasn't for you guys, I'd be having beers right now and barbecuing. It's 10 a.m. I'd be done. It's the truth. It's absolutely the truth.
Kind of a lot of times, and then you can answer that question. A lot of
Yeah.
times, it's the same for me. Like if I wasn't in Discord, and usually I'm sized down or stopped, I'd be like 30 minutes in, I'm done, guys. Like I got nothing else. Like I don't have to do more. And I think I said that to you back when I was talking about you being a full time trader. I was like, your your losses are gonna hurt worse when you become a
Oh
full
yeah.
time trader. So
I
know
was.
that it is
Yeah.
they're going to wreck you a lot worse. So size accordingly and understand that. And obviously, like I don't know what you were doing before, but you kind of took that in, because if you can't handle, like if you were to go full time, and like I told you, like some of the stuff I've lost, which I've said on here, is like I've had a 40 grand red day, and I've had a 60 grand green day or whatever it was. It's like I've had those. If you can't handle the 60 green, if you can't handle the 40 red, you're not going to get to the 60 green. Generally, it's not all the time, but when you start having those, a lot of times what comes with that are the big red days. So you really do have to be like, hey, right now, I can't handle that. Now, maybe in 5 years to get to this next question, which you can get to, you know, hey, maybe maybe I have $5 million saved up in the side, and it doesn't really bother me to take 10 to 20 to 30 contracts because I have no debt, and I'm sitting here and I'm, feel much better about myself and the trading, and I can do it. But right now, as a new trader, a year, 2, 3, 4 years into it, I'm not looking to like make or lose. I'm looking to be consistent over a long period of time, which I respect you a lot for. And you're like, I'm just going to keep doing this, and I'm going to get there, and I don't have to get there tomorrow. Maybe some people are super aggressive and they got there and they found the stuff that works. Hey, that's good. I'm doing what I like to do. I'm growing at my own pace, and I'm getting there. Um, but yeah, you can take this.
Yeah, there's some good questions. Just someone was asking, what is your long-term plan for trading? Do you plan to evolve your trading longer time frames? If you could grow as a trader, what would that look like? Um, so like I said, I moved back to the US in end of September 2018. I'd lived abroad for 6 years. I was a student, and I had zero dineros. Like really, I spent it all. I was like, I'm gonna spend everything I have traveling, and boy, did I, right? Um, and I'm at that point in my life where I'm still trying to build that financial cushion, right? So I know that I can't go crazy on risk. I know that if I stick to the rules and I make those green days every day, that over time I can avoid a full-time job, quote unquote, in an office and a commute. And where do I see myself in 5 years? All that stuff. I don't know. Nobody knows that type of thing. But I can guarantee you one thing is that I'm going to continue to adapt with this community that has been built by Mark. I'm going to do everything I can to stay toxic free. And as long as the C strategies work, I'm going to do it every single day that I'm allowed to. And I'm going to follow my rules, but I'm always going to be growing as a trader. But I'm not at a point where I can take a lot of swing trades or overnights or take huge risk or long-term investments. I'm still, I'm still trying to make sure that I can provide for my family. And that's what this is. This is for me, I don't see this as a get rich quick scheme. I see this as consistent cash flow over very long periods of time, clicking buttons on a computer.
Hmm.
That's what we do. We click buttons on a computer at the right time, and we know what to do if things go horribly wrong. Um, and my biggest motivation, I'll be honest, this sounds horrible, but my biggest motivation is I think about how hard some people work for 20 bucks an hour. And I'm like, my God, I mean, I get some people are less fortunate than all of us. And 100, we're lucky, obviously, but it's I have such a fear of falling back down that world that everything I do is going to be to avoid toxicity and to trade smart. So in 5 years, 10 years, I'm doing the exact same thing I'm doing today, just I'll be richer, right? Theoretically. So, and then there's another question. What would you say are the core basic rules for a trading plan? It's a really interesting question because that's kind of something Geronimo's been talking about. Um, I think the number one rule is never take a loss so big that you can't come back from it. CT, Gator, can I tell you a quick story? This is something I wanted to share actually.
Yeah,
So,
send it.
um, I think it's a really big, it's a really important story in my life. So in 2017, I was living in another country, and I had the opportunity to travel with some friends to Asia. So I took that opportunity. We went to Vietnam, well, it's one of the countries, Vietnam. Which, by the way, if you ever like $100 in Vietnam, you're a king, right? So I was there, and we were in northern Vietnam in Hanoi, and we were caught in this tourist trap where like some local citizens were like, come look at our town and all that. I'm like, okay, we'll come look at your town. And they took us around for at least an hour, maybe two. And there were these girls following us. They were at most 10, and they didn't know much English, but they had a bag with them. And at the end of the tour, they wanted to sell us stuff. I was like, okay, fine. So I had like $50 in my pocket, right? Not, that's PI on a Mark One, right? And and I bought a bunch of stuff for my people at the time, and then one girl came to me and she was like maybe eight at most, and she's like, you didn't buy anything for me, you said you would. And I was sitting there like, pretty sure I bought something from you. I'm not going to buy anything from you. She's like, well, you need to buy something from me, I need to go home and take this to my family. And I'm like, no, you're trying to scam me now. Long story short, she spent 2 hours sitting next to me, not letting me go from her site so that I could buy something from her. You know how much I spent to make her day? 12 fucking cents. I feel horrible to this day that I wasted her time for 12 effing cents. And at the time it was like 50,000 dong or whatever it was. Like it sounded like a lot, and I didn't even have change, and I was like, oh God, I was making up excuses. But just we are so lucky to be in the position we're in. I don't ever want to give it up. And that's really what is the driving force of my trading plan. So everything I do is to make sure I survive. I'd rather have a flat day than a big red day. And a lot of people I talk to don't see that. They just think, oh, I made 100 grand in the last month. That's fine. I can blow it. But do you know how hard it is to make 100 grand for a lot of people in this country? You said it the other day in your video. Like, I don't know what the statistic is, but isn't it something like 80 or 90% make than less than 70,000, something like that a year?
Hmm.
Something.
Yeah, like if you make, I don't remember the number, but yeah, if you're like, I'd have to look up again, but yeah, it's like most of the population, 70% or something like that, or 70 and under, make 70% and under.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go. Yeah. My dog needs permission to go upstairs now. It's really
It's kind of funny.
no, but it's important. That's like when I think of my trading plan, and whenever people say, "What's your trading plan?" It's like, what is your plan to do this forever? And that's how I think. That's really how I think, because I know I've seen what happens when I lose it all, and I've seen what happens when I do really well. And for me, really well is very different than a lot of people. But if I can make, more than what I was making in my last job in less hours, I'm thrilled. And I set a low bar because when I have a really green day, believe me, I celebrate. Not, I'll make cookies or chicken wings or something, nothing crazy like champagne and caviar, but it's all relative, right? It's all relative.
Yeah, I mean, just pulled up a random statistic. Only 33% of the country make over $100,000 a year.
Really?
Percent of, yeah, 33% have households have earnings
Oh,
in
households.
2020. Yeah, households.
Okay, households, yeah. That's with stimulus checks. So I feel like
Yeah,
that's generous. I really do.
yeah, I do too. It might even be lower than that. And you have inflation and stuff kicking in that makes it higher.
Yeah.
It used to be 15%, 12%. So it's, and if you told me I had to make that, and this is all I had to do doing that, I said it before. It's like not trying to be mean or degrade. Like I actually don't. I think other work that people do, the labor, like general jobs, the people that keep the power on, all this different stuff is actually, yeah, only 5% little cash make over $200,000 a year. Like if you, so what did I say? Like joking around in one of the videos last week. You are the 1%, the 1% of people that make the money and to pay the no taxes. 1%. Although they pay 90% of the taxes. Um, like if you make over 200,000, you're in the 5% of Americans, which puts you in the 0.10001% of the whole world. Whether you like it or not. So perspective. So when you have
Yeah.
your, if you can keep that perspective when you're trading, and like CT said in the comment, just like you're having a hard day, you're doing whatever, or you're down some, accepting a loss and just being, you know what, I'm grateful that I'm a trader. I'm grateful that I learned how to do this, and maybe I have, I'm grateful that it can give me these opportunities. I'm going to be intelligent. I'm not going to blow it. It's not about the big red days and the big green days. I'm going to learn to be consistent. I'm going to learn to be intelligent with my trading. Yeah.
And it's wild. It's wild the mentality change going just to tie it back to what we were saying earlier to be a not a long-term trader, a full-time trader making money regularly is that you see money very differently. So it's very easy to get carried away. It's very easy. Like I'll tell you right now, like ever since I found success, my collection of Apple products has skyrocketed. I make David W super proud. Like I have pretty much everything they've produced at this point, but it's so easy to just forget that, hey, this actually cost something. I really had to work for this. When you make, like, if I look at my best day ever and I'm just sitting there, it's like it would have taken me a month, over month and a half to get to that point. You have to just sit back sometimes and be like, okay, I had a small red day, I'll live. I don't need to be toxic about it. And like I said, it's just perspective is everything. And when you're building your trading plan, which is something I know a lot of people are really talking about, you better be grateful. You better be grateful for the opportunity of what you're doing because, you know, I don't know what the minimum wage is in India, for example, but I'll bet you it's not much, right? A couple bucks at best a day. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but we're blessed. We are blessed to be able to like Geronimo tells me all the time, he's like, dude, if you want to leave after an hour, I couldn't care less. He's like, just show up in the morning and there you go. And it's just like, what kind of, boss would say that to you ever? I have one job. It's to upload the videos because he can't do it. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. We're lucky. We're just so lucky. I think there's some other questions higher up that were missed, but I can't see your YouTube.
If y'all have any, I can scroll up. But if y'all have questions, throw them in the comments while we're wrapping the show up right here. We'll take, we've already asked some, so let me scroll through some of these. You can actually go on YouTube yourself, just mute the sound so it doesn't
Oh
come
yeah.
through, and scroll up through the comments.
You just leave it there for a second. How do you get rid of ego? Listen, ego in this job will kill you. Like for me, ego is oh, I have to make more money because somebody else made more money than me. Like that's killer. Like that's the worst thing you can do. Like if I hear Gator had a $10,000 day and I had a $2,000 day, if I start thinking, oh boy, I got to aim for that 10,000, you're going to be doing things that you're less comfortable with. Yeah, you could grow and become better, but like we're all different. We all have different risk tolerances. So ego is not allowed in this industry. It just isn't for me.
And the way to get rid of ego in this industry is to get rid of the ego in your personal life. Um, Something I'll talk about on a later show, but one of the personalities or the flaws and things that get people losing, part of it is ego and personal life. How you deal with things in your personal life translate to this job. if you have an ego problem or whatever problem in your actual personal life, it's just going to translate into this job. Trading just brings out the personality that already exists within you. So if ego is getting wrapped up and it's you're having a problem here, that's not a problem with this. This is just bringing out what's already in you. Sorry. And it's pushing it because that's what this does. So, okay, I have an ego problem, is basically what you're asking. I have to begin to address that. And that's a different topic that would take a whole video. But, I don't want to get into that too much, but it's not keeping it out of the industry. It's like, you know, I could throw stuff out. It's like kind of like confidence. It's like, I'm just trying to think of random examples of things that have, ego driven. An insecure person might be mad if somebody else looks at their wife or something like that. And I don't mean anything crazy, but just like, they just like, they get mad if somebody insults them. They just can't handle an insult, or they can't handle losing an argument, or whatever it is. And I'll talk about this on a later show just because of the time. But this show, we've been going for about 2 hours. Time flies when you're having fun. But yeah, if you're having ego issues, it's personal. It's not the market.
One little story is that I used so like I said, I lived abroad and I worked abroad for a while, and I was really good at what I did, like really, really good. And I showed it. Like I not only was it evident in the results, but the way I acted, the way I talked, and all that. And when I went to apply for a really big promotion, they said, "You're too full of yourself," basically. Like we could see it in your work and the way you acted, the way you talked to people. It's like, yeah, you had the best numbers around, but you were too cocky. And that was when I learned, hey, your ego is going to hurt you if you don't get it under control. And it was a good life lesson. I'm so glad I didn't get that job because who knows what it would have done to me, right? Um, it's so important. Someone asked a really interesting question, but I missed it.
That's cool.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Read Jocko's. Let me know where I was at. Read Jocko Willing's books. Listen to his podcast. And he does a ton of stuff about ego and getting your ego in check. So I highly, highly recommend his stuff.
Michael Pierre asks, is there a proper way to make a critical steps to adapt in the market? If so, would be using the OODA loop or something else? Well, everybody's different, but for me, if I have two stop out days in a week, so if I have 2 days where I'm down 2 grand and I walk away, that means there's an issue, and I immediately start trying to figure that out. I also use the room as a gauge. So I always say like for example, if Gator comes to me and says, I had a really good day, and I had a really good day, and I'm like, okay, great. But if he had a really good day and I didn't have a really good day, that's my OODA loop saying, hey, wait a minute, he did really well, but you didn't. What did you do differently, given that you guys are relatively similar traders? You see the same strategies, you're seeing the same market. Where did you fail? So constantly gauging yourself with the room and with other traders, especially the ones that trade like you, just to make sure you're aligned with them, I think is critical. Like for example, there's one trader in this room I trained, I don't want to say single-handedly, but with Mark, single-handedly. And if he has a really good day and I have a really good day, great. If he has a very bad day, I can immediately figure out, and I had a really good day, I can immediately figure out, hey, something's up. Did you not sleep well last night? Did you have an issue? Every time it's the same thing. So being aware of your surroundings is one thing, but constantly, working with other people is so critical in this industry. I don't see how people can do this alone. I really don't. I would go nuts. I think it was CT who was saying the other day, like, can you imagine doing this without this Discord, without the VTF? I can't. There's no way I can.
No, and just to add to that, the OODA loop, yeah, OODA loop is just a process of observing and making decisions. So that is how I do it. It's just like Eddie said. It's like if I notice that, you know, it's just noticing what's happening around you. Or are you taking longs when the cues are failing? Is that why your Mark 1 didn't work? And it's just kind of noticing that. So it really is just learning what decision-making processes need to be in there. Using the room, like Eddie said, is key. Like the whole ATR in Tesla, it's under like $1, it's under $2. Yeah, I'm not going to trade that. It's just that OODA loop, and you're just recognizing the stuff, and then something jumps out to you, and you're making changes based on past experience, and a lot of it is just time in front of the a lot of failure and time in front of the screen, adapting as things are going, using the room to help you adapt before you lose. stuff. If everyone's losing and you're like, oh, I'm gonna win and I'm gonna size up. Everybody else is losing. I don't care. Uh-huh. Yeah, you might. You do that. Let me know how that works.
M. Susan Brown has a great question. How long do you stay in, or how many cents against you? So, like Praveen said, we're trained to chuck quick, which is true. Oh, that was a different. He was answering something else. But the point is that when I buy Infidelity, my next step is to immediately prepare to sell and have my finger on the button depressed, so that if I want to get out, I just lift my finger and I'm out. So as soon as I buy, I'm prepared to sell. As soon as I sell, I'm prepared to buy. So that's kind of the art of front running and taking the quick loss, as opposed to holding one position and praying that it works in your favor, right? So I hope that answers your question, but I'm in and out of positions like sometimes multiple times during a trade because I just don't want to see it go against me. I don't have a set rule. It's chronological. If it goes against me, I'm out. I'm out. Period. There is no set time. There's no set sense. I'm just out. This is the way. Great
This is
show,
the
by the way.
way.
This is the
This
way.
is the way. That's
Yeah.
what we need to do. Then that literally is. It's like I chucked it. As we used to say. It's like I don't have a set time. I don't have a set stop loss. Like it's like the trade didn't work, and sometimes that trade didn't work. It's generally like quote unquote right away within maybe 5 seconds, 5 Mississippi or 3 Mississippi. But it's like I'm in it, and it's like, oh wait, this isn't what I wanted it to do, and then I'm out. And depending on the name and the contract that I'm playing, sometimes that name or contract is 10 cents lower, and sometimes it's $1 lower. Like when I play contracts, I'm usually way in the money. I'm taking contracts with $2 or $3 spread sometimes in Tesla and Amazon. It doesn't bother me. Sometimes I'm doing that. So I know my losses might be more than depending on PI. So there's not this specific exact formula. It's just like I'm in the trade. Whatever I thought beforehand doesn't matter. The trade did work or it didn't work. And pretty much it's like, oh, that's not what I wanted it to do. I'm out. Release. I'm out. And it's just like Eddie said, it's that quick.
But just think about what you just said. Because let's say you're in a position and it works in your favor, great. But if it doesn't work in your favor, it's just fluctuating. It's just, Google's different and Amazon's different. But if another name, they're just moving, it could drop at any second. If it's not going right away, I get out and I prepare to re-enter. I don't care if I miss the trade. I don't care if I have a red trade and then it goes. I don't want to be caught in that big down move because, like I said earlier, everything I do is to avoid the big loss. I rather avoid the potential for a big loss and miss out on a big gain. But my biggest ever loss was like $1,200 on one trade, which is so manageable and non-toxic.
It's not necessarily see red, Rich. And sorry, Eddie, don't mean to interrupt. It's not necessarily see red. It's more like it might be see red, but it's more just like that didn't do what I wanted. So it's pretty much it's like, yeah, you're in and the trade didn't do what you expected. Like Eddie's doing what Eddie you doing, you're probably like if you see red, you're done, right?
Actually, lately I've been looking at the 15-second chart, and if it breaks a 15-second low, I chuck it, which is a big step for me in all fairness. But that's me really adapting and saying I should be trying to hold a bit longer. But basically, I have my finger pressed where I've trained myself. If I'm not happy, I lift my finger. That's it. I'm gonna sell. I'm gonna sell. I don't like it. I'm out. Prepare to re-enter if I like it all of a sudden. Because some names, like listen, deer in headlights, we've all been there, right? We've all been in that position where the position drops so quickly in your face, you're not able to exit quick enough. 2, 3 seconds is the difference between a 2 point loss and a 4 point loss. So training yourself to be able to take that quick loss is so. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm dealing with traders right now who have 90% win rate, but then they're big. Then they'll have 10% loss rate, and they're holding for 3 minutes, and they have a huge red day as a result. That's what I want to avoid, and that's what I've been trained to avoid.
And that's what you got to do. And like sometimes if I'm looking at a trade and I'm like this trade might need room, sometimes, rarely, and then I have one question to ask Eddie. Um, Sometimes I'm like I'm sized down and I actually am going to let the trade play out. And I'm like, I'm going to give this some room. I like it to this level. It hit this VWAP. I'm going to give this trade room, but I size down so much on those that it won't hurt me. I usually say I'm comfortable losing 2 to 3 times the spread on any trade. And that's even with 10 contracts or something like that. So I size down, I realize what I'm trying to do. I'm like, hey, this is going to need room. So I go into the trade with that mindset. I'm not going into a like a Mark 1 that I'm ready getting to click on. I'm like, okay, here we go. Here we go. Tesla's going to go. I'm in. It goes against me. I'm going to give it room. Like if my plan was to enter the trade and it go in my favor, and then after 2 to 3 seconds it's not in my favor, I'm done. If my plan was to get into a trade on a moving average and give it a little bit of room, I'm going to enter differently and size differently to then allow the trade to work. So there's a little bit of like adapting there. It's like the Google trade. I enter at a certain level, stochastics, giving it room. Sometimes it's red and it's bouncing around. There's a reason I don't use stochastics on Amazon for long holds. Amazon will whip me out and then go in the favor. Google, the price doesn't move as much. It's like the Qs are moving, Google moves, but you're basically at the same price, and then it goes and it cascades. So there's that little bit of balance there.
You must have been heartbroken when you heard about that Google split, huh?
Yeah, it's like right after I make a video, it's like doing, it's like, yo. It does work in other names. I've noticed it working in other stuff, but it doesn't work as well as that because of how slow it moves. I don't get shaken out. If I could let other stuff play out, it probably works some too.
Rich asks, so you pitch as soon as you see red.
Yeah, that's
I
the
mean,
question.
here's the point. Is like, what does it mean to see red? Where are you seeing red? Right? Does the option price drop against you? I always look at the level two of the name, and I give it a little bit of wiggle room sometimes, especially in this whippy environment. But it really, like Gator was just saying, it depends on the environment. In this environment, you better take the money because it might not be there. Like there have been multiple times where I'm up money and I sell, and the market dropped right there, and I actually ended up losing on really good trades. So it's all about adapting, and it's all about making sure that you're not doing something that's not working repetitively. If it's not working, stop.
But neither one of us are holding a red trade for 15 minutes or 5 minutes just hoping it comes back. Hoping is not
Never.
a trading strategy.
No, it's not. No, it's not. You're 100% correct. It's crazy. Like there have been times where I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'll just hold it and it'll go up. And then I'm like, no, that's not who I am. Sell. Chuck it. I'm done. And then I look at the contract 5 minutes later and I would have been down 50%. Like I know this works for me. Like Duan is saying, everybody's different, but it works for me. If it doesn't work for you, there's nothing wrong with that. But understand why we do it.
And you asked, or somebody asked if
Yes, if
Matt 12 is being competitive an ego problem.
Ooh,
Maybe.
like for
Being
some people,
depends on what you're talking. If you're trying to like beat me because that you think that makes you a better trader, that could be an ego problem. If
yeah,
you just like to be competitive and you're just like I'm competitive with the market. I'm competitive with myself, not for
yeah,
P&Ls, but like I'm
yeah.
competitive to trade better every day. I'm super competitive. I'm extremely competitive. It's like I like jujitsu and like golf and football and like I'm like major competitive. But I'm not competitive with like Kelly. I'm not competitive with Eddie. Like I have no ego tied up in that. So I think you have to define what you mean by competitive and how it affects you.
I think you said it actually really well. I'm like, if anything, I'm not a competitive individual when it comes to non-sports stuff, I guess. But you know, I'm competitive versus myself. It's so well said, Gator. It's just like I don't care that you made more money than me, but I do care that I traded poorly today, but well yesterday. I want to be better towards myself. Because if I'm not improving, if you're not moving higher, you're either stagnating or you're moving lower. And if you're stagnating, you're moving lower. So it doesn't matter if someone made more than me or is having bigger days than me consistently. What matters is, am I a better trader than I was yesterday? And that has nothing to do with ego, but it is competitive against yourself. Chase Melnick, great name. How do you personally handle if it take a quick loss or a small win on a setup that prints above the trigger, but then has no follow through? But then after you get out, then it starts going. Do you jump back in? Well, that's what. Oh, he was asking Gator, but I'll
Yeah.
answer it.
Yeah.
That's why
I'll
when,
answer.
that's why when I sell a position, I immediately prepare to get back in. When you're on a small account, that's much harder, but you just have to accept that's part of the game, right? We're not getting follow through in this, especially today, except for like Tesla in the first half hour. We're just not getting the follow through we used to. So you can't take it personally. You can't be like, oh, market. You followed your rules. You sold out. It went after. You did the right thing because 99% of the time, if you do the right thing, you're going to be okay. If it's that one time where you don't follow your rules or you hold on too long that you get wiped out.
And when people get wiped out doing that is when they're doing what you say, and then they come back the next time like, okay, I'm holding this one longer, and then it pops
Yeah.
up, and then it goes down, and now they're down 2 or 3 points, and that's what it looks like on those people's trading journals. It's like, they took that one because the last 2 times they did it, it popped afterwards, so they held this one, and now they're 5 points down, and they can't handle it, and their day's gone.
Yep.
So do I jump back in, and do I do this? Sometimes. I do it like I've talked about in some of my trade review videos. I watch the level 2. I don't instantly jump back in most of the time, depending. Is there an A plus trigger? Is there something? Is this a normal breakout? Is there a strong name? Is the market trending? These things are factors. But basically, I wait for the tape to slow down, and then I enter. So I'm watching it. It pops up. You have the tape running a little bit, and then I don't chase. Then I watch the tape. It stops. It slows down for a second. Eddie has a 15-second chart, so it slowed down for a little bit. If I'm re-entering, I'm re-entering once it stops or slows down. It slows down for 2-3 seconds. That's my enter. That's my re-enter. It's not on the pop because there's no telling. There's people selling their contracts that they were in. You could get a worse fill and all this stuff. It's when it sits still. As soon as that tape slows down and sits still, now it could whip against me, but if I'm re-entering and I like it to follow through, and I have a reason to think it's following through, when the tape slows down is when I enter and to chase it, not when the tape is exploding. When the tape's exploding and I miss the trade, I'll catch the next one. The tape slows down, that's my enter for the follow through.
I do have to get going in short order, but if
Yep.
anybody has any last questions, go ahead and send them now.
Well, while people are sending, is that a Lulu shirt?
That's a good question, actually. No, it's Target.
Okay.
It's Target.
It looks
Yeah,
like a
but
Lulu.
I have been. My wife said now that you're actually making more money, let's upgrade your wardrobe. Which nice, I don't have to do it. And Lulu is. Have you ever been in a Lulu store? It's
Oh, yeah.
just phenomenal. It's just like everybody looks good. Everybody's got really tight spandex. Everybody's fit. It's a different world, and it's kind of weird, but the quality is just wildly like I'm wearing a Lulu pants right now. The pocket situation is just
Yep.
they know what they're doing.
Lulu shirt, Lulu pants. I've got like 90% of, if I'm not wearing like blue jeans, like whatever shirts I wear out in public, it's like literally I trade in Lulu. It's like I have 6 or 7 shorts, 6 or 7 shirts.
Yeah.
Like pretty much my wardrobe is when I'm just chilling or working out is Lulu. So yeah, short from like golfing attire, and I think even I'm gonna get some golfing shorts from them. But yeah, love their stuff. So yeah, you've been a little over 2 hours. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Um, Chase, I'll hit you up in Discord to answer the second half of this question. So yeah, I'll hit you up in Discord to answer the second half of that question. Um, so if y'all want to hear that question, I'll hop in the Discord rotation crew and answer that as soon as we sign off here. Eddie has to go, and dude, I appreciate you coming on and talking. Really love it, man. You're always welcome on the show if you want to hang out on Friday nights, any other night. You want to come on and talk about something. You always have a platform. Thank you so much for spending the time with us.
Yeah, and thank you for doing these shows, and thank you for always being there as a fellow trader, always dealing with the bad days, the good days. Just one last thing is that these communities that have been built for us, it's really up to us to make sure they live on. So I truly believe if you give everything into the Discord, the T3, and all that, you're going to get a lot out of it. And I have given this room as much as I can, as much as I think I can at least, and I've gotten a lot out of it. And you know, I'm not saying you're going to be on a mic tomorrow, but give it everything. This job is so worth it if you can nail it. And I know it's easier said than done, but you have a community here who's willing to help you. Take it and go for it. Like we're very accessible people. CT's accessible, Rose is acceptable. Well, I shouldn't put them on the spot, but I'm sure they are. Um, you know, do everything you can to become a full-time trader if that's what you want to do, and make sure you give everything you can to this community. And I think as a group we'll thrive. Thank you very much, Gator.
Appreciate it. Yo, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff if you already haven't. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us and sticking for the show. Probably do a show tomorrow night, a little bit of trade review stuff. I'm only trading for a little bit tomorrow before I go golfing. Enjoy the life that, trading gives. So, hey guys, thank you again so much for hanging out. Thanks, Eddie, for coming on. I'll see you all tomorrow in the Discord in the Newsbeat live room, or tomorrow night here on the show.